Well, hello there, everybody. You're tuning into a live cast, but recorded in much higher quality than normal for YouTube. Spawning here to the bottom right side of the map, we have the red Terran player, a bit of an OG. You should know him. His name is Bomber. And his opponent, a little bit lesser known, but if you've watched enough games, you know who he is. To the top left, we have the blue Protoss Cyan, who, if I'm getting my nationalities correct here, I believe is a Chinese player. Of course, we've mentioned this before, but for the casual audience out there, the reason you don't see a lot of games with people like Cyan or Haas or Time is because the Chinese server is completely segmented away, and you have to do a lot of really complicated things just to get over there to play on it. It's not as simple as region switching like the other regions. So it's always nice to see these guys take the extra effort to come out and play, especially in Korean Cups, as I know a lot of them are looking to improve and just continue to be better and better, as the StarCraft 2 scene in China is surprisingly large, but I guess that's proportionate with just people in the country. Regardless, happy to see Cyan. Bomber, he's definitely not the crazy OP Terran he was pre-military years ago, but even after coming back from the military, within that first week, barely practiced, he was still actually pretty good. So all things considered, I don't favor Bomber to be the winner of the tournament tonight, but I do favor Bomber to do well in the brackets. At least I'm expecting the round of 8. Although I say this with a little bit of cheekiness in mind because, dear audience who haven't seen the brackets, I picked this match as our first round match because it leads into the winner possibly playing versus Tasia. Tasia just recently qualified for GSL and is one heck of a Terran. Ooh. All right, not gonna get the kill here, but some very important information gathered from this probe. Even if it dies, it's probably gonna die. Almost certainly. Okay, probe gets sniped off there. But it saw two important things. One, it saw the command center go down, and two, more importantly, it saw a Marine, not a Reaper. So there's not going to be harassment that needs to be dealt with. And funny enough, it makes building on the wall like this a little bit pointless, but it does no harm. Not yet, at least. Now with a bunker coming down at the front, Bomber is playing very safe. I wouldn't say scared, and I wouldn't say he's overreacting, but, you know, he went for a Marine. He knows he's not going to have a lot of mobility. Having units inside the bunker to stave off things like a Stalker, or in this case, an Adept pushing down the middle of the map, will be incredibly useful. But tech advances, and we'll see if he goes for Banshees or Raven, what comes out of the starport when it does, because that's really going to dictate, I think, the direction this game will go. Now, oh, that SCV really gets over there alive. Sadly, I think the Adept transfer should still kill it. Now, 3 Marines are enough to kill an Adept, though, so Cyan has to be careful and cautious how long he sticks around for. Killing another SCV might be nice, but losing the Adept would be worse. Trying his best here to trade out. Now, back at home for Cyan, what's he up to, right? Like I said, we're going to be watching the starport a little bit here for the Terran, but for the Protoss, he's actually throwing down the Twilight Council. Now, if you've been watching really good and skilled players like Parting and Trap, you know Blink Stalker's going to be really frustrating to play against in this matchup. And with a forward pylon like this, it's kind of what it's smelling like we might see some of, or at least 2 bases, but we got to see another gateway or 2 to come down if this is going to be a big commitment. The pylon over here is a little bit funny, and I'll talk about this more for drops later, but for now, I will point out that it is a Banshee, and it does have Cloak coming with it. This is information Cyan doesn't have, but if Cyan decides to not go with Stalkers yet, they'll come eventually, his initial Adepts will have trouble getting work done. The Banshee should, hypothetically, be able to clean all these up eventually, but it's about managing damage. The bunker will ward things off at the front like a bit of a bluff, but realistically, the Adepts can just transfer past this and start sniping off SCVs. So Bomber does have to protect his mineral lines here, not just against a frontal normal push. And he still doesn't know this is coming. Salvaging the bunker is going to hurt a little bit, but I think he's got enough Marines to take this fight, especially if the Banshee stops up for a second to hold up at home and help defend this. Because while the Banshee might go across the field and grab a couple probes, he's bound to lose so many more SCVs. So staying at home is definitely the right call in my books. Tank comes out. That's, oh, I don't know about that positioning. If the Adepts actually transfer through, they'd be right in the dead zone, and the tank would be made a little useless. But okay, they cancel the transfer. They fall back. The Banshee's giving chase. Not eradicating the Adepts, but the damage keeps the pressure off of his own base. You see Bomber actually moves towards the 3rd, taking it right in the front of his base. Meanwhile, back at home, I mentioned Blink earlier. It's near completion, but this isn't for a Blink Stalker all in. This is probably just for mobility through the Stalkers. Makes it a lot easier to chase medevac drops, and you'll spot these drops a lot easier thanks to this pylon. And we're probably gonna see more pylon, yeah, over here, and probably even one over here at some point. Because the idea is that if you don't have a lot of observers spread through the middle of the map, you can usually at least put pylons around the edges to see when and where and what, most importantly, what direction these units are coming from, so you can position your Stalkers appropriately to stop the Banshees. Most of the army's sitting here in the natural base right now. I don't have any problems with this whatsoever, but it is going to be out of position ever so slightly for these first two. Top left, you do see a shield battery that would stop one Banshee, but two Banshees can burst on right through it. No chance for the probes to heal up with that shield battery. So picking away at this, he also sees 3 gateways in the main base. He should see the third on the way out. Remember, he hasn't seen it till just now. One of the comforting things about seeing a CC like that is knowing that you're not going to be faced with some, excuse me, not CC, a Nexus. You're not going to be faced with some kind of ridiculous all-in, something that's going to be impossible to hold off. The Banshee's going to float away, and Cyan walks up here with a couple Stalkers. Realistically, this base will go off without a hitch. Back at home, third base is finishing up for Bomber, but it's not on location, so a little bit behind in that regard. Bomber doesn't know about the Stalkers that are sitting right outside the edge of his base, but these are only 3 Stalkers, so they shouldn't pose a problem. We're definitely looking at this game to be more of a macro mid to late game sort of matchup here. I don't think anyone's going to keel over in the next few minutes, but we do have a situation where there's a little information on both sides of this. I mean, Cyan has had more scouting, in fairness. But Cyan also doesn't know exactly what the army count is. He doesn't know if there's drops moving along the sides. He's only got what he's got at home. Banshee's coming here for another round of harassment. Banshee's kind of running out of juice on the stealth. They'll have to fall back. Those 3 Stalkers end up catching the command center, and more importantly, the SCVs transferred through it. So while those Banshees kill 6 probes on the other side of the map, sadly, Bomber loses about 7 SCVs. So a very, very small run by of these Stalkers. Well handled there out of Cyan. No, it's not going to be dissuaded by this, though. He still goes for dropping mules on the base. Minerals, income, macro. That's the kind of game we have at store. Oh, this is a little awkward, though. These Zealots get in here, and there's not much at home. He's not bringing the main army back, so he's relying on the reinforcements to take care of this. And they will, but not before a lot of SCVs die. Like, an unacceptably large amount of SCVs die. Zealots over here are being unstopped. Bomber, I don't like this for him one bit. He's lost 20 workers through this fight. Now, granted, when it comes down to the income, he was ahead by a large margin. This brings him back to even rather than putting him behind. But if this fight doesn't go well for him, then he's going to really regret not pulling back to deal with those 20 SCVs that he lost. Tanks set up, but the Guardian Shields are helping reduce a lot of the Marine damage. Marines kite backwards. Those Zealots have been cleaned up. Now it's mostly the Archons. First one pops off. Second one in the back line. Not quite ready to fight, and Bomber holds his ground with his bio. But he might have to start kiting soon. Not a lot, just enough, because the Zealots arrive on the front line with those reinforcements. Medevacs are keeping he's topped up, and these Marauders with their concussive shells should make it really easy to catch runaway units. This fight went really well for Bomber. And he's trying to pounce on top of this too, capitalize on it, kick him while he's down. He doesn't want Cyan to have any time to recover off this. So as he continues to push up towards the base, the Nexus is probably going to go down here. The probes, luckily, I guess, aren't that saturated. While this went on, I guess the Warp Prism went in for another round, and another 8 SCVs died. For Bomber, I mean, it's just damage he's replacing with mules for now, but he is on a bit of a rampage on the other side of the field, and I think going home would be the wrong move in this case. There's nothing in the production tab, but there's also just not that many units to fight with in general. If Bomber, with these Marauders alone, I think could win the game. The Gateway's getting knocked down. That kills production. Robo's going to be unpowered here in a moment. Oh, wait, there's a pylon on the left side. Didn't see that. Still, even if the Immortal spawns, there's enough Marauders to just collapse on it. The Sentries go down, so no more force fields, no Guardian Shield. Archon pops off. That Immortal still might not even spawn the Marauders. They just turn on the Robo. Never mind, because it's GG. Bomber takes game number 1. Now, some of you may be wondering what that little bar at the bottom of the screen was. If you guys have missed out on our first day of charity fundraising the other day, this is going to continue all throughout the week. So I am gathering funds for the Minneapolis COVID relief through United Way. I'm not trying to turn tonight into a political stream. I don't think ESL's the forum for it, but I will just say very briefly that I believe the protesters are going to need a lot of medical help. in a couple of weeks once we start seeing some new COVID cases, I guess, incubate or whatever. It's like a 14-day incubation period. So I'm hoping that by the time we're done this tournament, we have a couple $1,000 we can send over to Minneapolis. Those people definitely use the help. So anything you donate through the Tiltify link, if you type !donate, is tax deductible too. Make sure you do it through there, not through me, so you can claim those taxes. But folks, we're back at it already. It's game number 2, and spawning here to the bottom left side of the map. He's up 1 game right now. It's Bomber. And his opponent to the top right, the blue Protoss Cyan. The map, of course, is Everdream. And these matches are all going to be best of 3s right up until the semifinals, in which they will turn into best of 5s. These ESL Cups, though, are still worth quite a pretty penny for a lot of the players who compete in them. A casual reminder that there's a $400 prize pool attached to these. Top 4 players get paid. And with tonight being a very small bracket, I think it's pretty easy for some of these guys to make it to at least the top 4 for prize money. I think recollection said there's like 26 or 31 players signed up for tonight. It was, all things considered, a pretty small cup. Also, I'm now aware screen regioning is on, and it shouldn't be. Oh, there we go. That fixed everything, kind of. And then I now have the ESL logo in the wrong spot. Sweet. Well, this is why you don't do this stuff live. Anyways, for game 2, round 2, I'm not sure what Bomber's game plan is for this. I think what he did last game was just pretty solid macro. There was no proxies, there was no cheese. In fact, I would even say there wasn't any scouting, because for a while there really wasn't. You know, a lot of the times, one of my favorite openers to watch Terran players execute well are the Widow Mine drops for TVP. Because Widow Mines can sometimes just do some oh my god damage, but more importantly, that medevac is the scouting that you don't have, especially if you don't go for a Reaper or anything like that. But Bomber just stuck to his guns in both a very punny and very actual way, and just kept building up a big army and pushed, and it worked. But I gotta be honest with you guys, I think if Cyan had played a little bit better around that, I don't think it would have worked. I think if he had recognized, because he did actually, and even if he did recognize early that it was just going to be a lot of bio, he saw like the 5 or 6 barracks when they were completed. I think it would have made a lot of sense to pivot from a Twilight Council and go for something like a Colossus, just to be a really easy way to deal with it. Or if you're going to dedicate Twilight Council, go down the Templar path, because you're going to need some splash damage at some point. Look, regardless, I'm not going to overly criticize Cyan. I'm just saying that there's a lot of ways Bomber could have been dealt with. And I don't actually think the build he did was anything exceptional. I think it was just a good macro player. Was able to use his good macro to beat out a Protoss player in game 1. That's how I'd summarize it, I guess. It's a boring way to do it, but looks like we are going to have something a little bit more spectacular. Hellions, I'm guessing, with a medevac. Reactor on the factory makes sense. This is something that I think you do when you've identified weakness in a Protoss player. Because if they don't handle the mineral lines very well, as we saw with the response from the Banshee in game 1, then usually they're going to have a hard time dealing with Hellions, because Hellions are far more, I guess, just volatile. If you stop paying attention to a Banshee, yeah, it'll kill like 8 or 7 probes. If you stop paying attention to Hellions, your entire mineral line is gone. That's 16 kills easy. So the idea is that he builds the starport and proxy. It gets the medevac out on the map faster. Hellions will load in. Ideally, on a map like Everdream 2, there's a lot of dead space to abuse in the main. Cyan will probably have a pylon over there, though, because he did this last game. He doesn't want to create too much dead space to give Bomber that opportunity. But the really big thing about this is it doesn't get scouted. And oh, it didn't. Oh, it didn't. Okay, so the Oracle comes in, and it's going to scout a lack of a starport. I don't know if this is going to come off, that it's going to be a drop, but regardless, he doesn't see anything, and that's really questionable. There's a little bit of dead space in the main. You can see him positioning his units, anticipating that spot, but Bomber finds a sweet spot. He just goes for it. There's no pylons blocking it out. No forge was made. He focuses the sentry to stop the force fields, but now that medevac's under attack from the stalkers, and he boosts up to the top right. Oh, this is so tough because this map's kind of tiny, and oh my god, that medevac is super dead. That medevac is so super dead. This attack ended up failing pretty miserably for Bomber, if we're just being honest. It did cause some disruption to mining. You can see the big spike there in income difference, because of course he just kept mining pretty steadily through this. But that attack with those Hellions, that's meant to trade out. Like, that's supposed to get 8 workers. That's supposed to have the medevac maybe get out alive, or at the very least sit in a corner of the map and the stalkers have to stay home because they're scared of the pressure. But no, because that went so poorly, now Cyan goes on a counterattack, and Bomber is not ready for this. There needs to be a siege tank in position for the warp in. It's not. The tank's on the low ground, hoping that the attack comes through the front, through that bunker. Not going to be the case. 4 stalkers unloading the main, and this is enough to one-shot an SCV if he focuses it down. Okay, a little bit lazy on the control, but it's because he was busy at home deflecting a Liberator. They stopped the 3rd CC from being built. Warp Prism going to provide a little bit of blink micro, so to speak. Some kind of poor man's blink micro. As long as the tanks are in position to grab whatever drops out, unsieged or sieged, these tanks will be good for defending. But yeah, there's not like a Viking to chase this around. There's not Marines on the ground. Bomber's going to bleed SCVs. It's just a matter of managing how many go down here. And I got to give Cyan some credit. This Warp Prism micro has been on point. He hasn't missed a beat. None of the stalkers died. And granted, he didn't cause crazy damage. He did delay the 3rd base, which was going to hurt Bomber in the long run. Oh, I didn't realize reinforcements had walked up. There's another stalker and adept over here. All right, so the starport finally comes home. Bomber's going to get to building. Main base doesn't have that much production, so funny enough, there's actually not that much to threaten here. But it also means there's not going to be much to reinforce with either. Still sitting here with a handful of Marines, no medevac support. The tanks are not in position where they need to be. And this is one of the big pains of having done that proxy build. Not having that medevac support, not having a Viking at home, just licking wounds after this Warp Prism leaves. Cyan used this very well too. He wasn't all in with this, not focused too much on the front line. Back at home, he's built a Nexus. He's taken his 3rd base. His tech's on the way too. +1 armor is going to be huge against bio units. Not to mention you add a sentry or 2 into the mix, throw in a Guardian Shield, and suddenly Marines are like whatever, but Marauders and tanks will still be an issue. Now, oh, you can throw away all that goodwill if he loses these stalkers for nothing. He's getting a little bit greedy going back for round 3, but it's okay, because while this goes on, some adepts transferred over to the natural. And frankly, I think that siege tank was doing more damage than helping. So these SCVs are getting slaughtered. Tank unsieges to deal with it. 6 go down. This could have been 7, 8, 7. This could have been so much worse. In fact, Cyan continuing to abuse some of this really, really frustrating play. But while this goes on, you know, there's no blink. There's nothing here that's going to benefit these. The tech this game is going to be Zealots. Got charge finishing up soon. And of course, that +1 armor. So everything that Cyan's been doing has just been a really weirdly cost-effective harass tool. In fact, look at the resources lost in the bottom right, and it just really shows it's not about getting lots of big burst damage done. It's just trading better. And that's going to pay off in the long run. So if I imagine, I think Cyan's had better income, or at least he does for now. Pair this with the better cost efficiency, and there's just more money available for the Protoss player at this current stage of the game. Hasn't had to waste it, I guess, to do these attacks, or in Bomber's case, defend. But Bomber's just picked up 4 medevacs full of units, and he's boosting around the map. Even with the vision to see that this is coming in the main base, you know, through the combination of the observer and the pylon, all of Cyan's units are across the field. This might trigger some kind of weird base trade. There's really not much to defend for Bomber. It's a couple of siege tanks. There's a factory floating for God knows why. Maybe he is prepared for a base trade. He's already put a building out on the map in case he loses control of the main. Whatever the case is, it's a full unload to the main base and a recall's initiated, but this is going to deny +1 weapons. Maybe even blink if he was quick, but no, he turns on the army, recognizing, wait a minute, that's not that many units. But that being said, it's still enough to scare him out, so picks up in the medevacs and floats on away. But while this goes on, Warp Prism over here, Zealots over here, I don't know, ants in his pants, it doesn't matter. 20-something SCVs have died. The command center, the main's actually getting low. I don't know, he's trying to build another SCV instead of lifting it. Lift! Oh my god, I'm like, Bomber, please. Do not be the guy who wins game 1, then loses his command center to a Zealot at game 2. Oh boy. All right, goes back to repairing it immediately with the SCVs. Bridging this damage will not be easy. He's lost his assault force on the other side of the map too. Looks like those medevacs were hunted down. So this has just gone from bad to worse for Bomber. Now does Bomber not only not have a good economy, he doesn't have a good standing army. Something that if he lost all the SCVs but had a tremendous army, might be able to do more of what he did in game 1 and just go for the push to break his opponent before he breaks himself. Yeah, we got Storm coming up here with Chrono Boost, going into it a bit. I mentioned it at the start of the game, but it doesn't have to be Colossus. Just some kind of splash damage, some kind of area of effect damage. And in this game, it's going to be Storm. That's going to help deal with the bio quite a bit. We have a Viking coming out. This is, I feel like something made out of necessity, not out of want. Just to be able to poke away the warp prism that he knows is currently hiding in the corner of the map. I'm not sure if the warp prism is going to get away. Yeah, he loads of zealots. I guess it's a funny trade, right? Because the zealots are the same cost as the warp prism. So this thing survives a little bit longer, provides some more potential harassment, but I just fear that Bomber's too far behind in this game now. Not directly because of upgrades, but because of pacing. For example, he's nowhere close to Ghosts. He doesn't have Liberators. Dealing with these Templar and Zealots is going to be really, really infuriating. And that Warp Prism should be able to get new units on the front line, but well, this is a big commitment fight over here. Let's not forget, there's some sneaky Zealots coming in over here. We're going to cut off the reinforcements. Bomber's going to have his wave of fight cut off, but that's it. No, it's not even going to matter. Not even going to matter. Where are the storms? What happened to the storms? He had like 4 storms. Did I just miss them all? Were they all just the trashiest storms we've ever seen? Look, I guess at the end of the day, this kills like 18 something workers, but this actually ends up being such a big costly engagement for Cyan that he goes from being insanely ahead on resources lost to being behind now. Yeah, there's a lot of games in StarCraft 2 where you just kind of get tilted in the early game and it definitely affects you for the rest of the game. I've been there. We've all been there. You don't have to be Grandmaster to have been there. We've all been there. But what blows me away is you look at the income, you look at how much is this favorite Cyan going up to this point, and then you realize he's about to lose this game. Like, I'm not sure what happened. The concave of the Terran on the minimap looked really powerful, but I didn't think it'd be like game-endingly powerful. That being said, with no storms well, there's some at home, but there's no storms in the front line, he wasn't able to handle that fight. And now these Marauders, it was funny, there's not many Marines left, so if he had any air units, this would be devastating. But he's warping it back at home, Bomber's home rather. This is a little awkward because Bomber will struggle to deal with the reinforcements, but he doesn't need to worry about that. I feel he can just focus on the front line, because while there are some storms to worry about, there's only like 3 max. You can see he's leaving the Marauders kind of pre-split, hoping to waste that energy and just continue with these concaves. And remember, you can't slow the Archons, but you can slow the Immortals. Goes in for the dive, realizing there's no storms left. That was a brilliant play, but I don't think he's got enough units. In fact, as he stims away, back at home, God, how many workers have died this game? I'm really scared to look. 70. Oh my God. Tapping out point with 70 dead workers. You'd only killed 2 probes all game. That's a little brutal. That one hurts. That one leaves a mark is what that does. Well, it does mean we're going to go to game 3, which is nice. So we'll have an extra match to cast here in the early part of the tournament. I hope you guys are enjoying the show. I'm sorry again if it's a little blurry on screen because I'm doing this for YouTube for higher quality recording just to test some stuff basically. So I'm hoping it looks really good for the folks who are watching this later on VOD, because it does come at the sacrifice of the people who are watching it live. Big love, guys. In terms of stream raiders, I'm probably going to lose this battle, so I'll just get that played out in the background once it's ready to start, but that's okay. We have a retry token. Orangulum, your approval and opinion means absolutely nothing to me. Feel free to enjoy the show, but I couldn't care less what you think. All right, it's game number 3 as we hop back into the action. Spawning here in the bottom left side of Eternal Empire, we have the red Terran player, Bomber. And at the top right, the blue Protoss, Cyan. China versus Korea, but also just some good matchups for the start of the tournament. The problem with a lot of open sign-up tournaments is you are going to have a lot of mismatch matches, and I'm talking from years of experience on this one, guys. I've seen a lot of games where it's like, cool, here's the hypest player innovation versus Joe Schmo diamond player who just wanted to sign up to play for fun. And there's nothing wrong with that. In fact, I encourage people to do that. But it is just that realization that you are really lucky when you get a back and forth best of 3 for the first round in a tournament, because most of the time that's not the case. But he does, I want to point this, I think this is kind of funny actually. Cyan continues to build, and I'm not sure if this is out of habit or just because he knows it's Terran, but he has so many times now not had to deal with a Reaper, but continues to build in such a way that would help prevent Reapers from getting too much freedom hopping in and out of the base. I don't think there's any problems with this, but there are some very select all-ins that could definitely take advantage of it. There's a couple of 2-base all-ins I'm thinking of you thermal using, for example, that come with tanks, and this is just like easy free real estate for a Terran player to pick off. But I'm glad he sticks to his guns, because here we are in game 3, and finally Bomber decides to go for a Reaper. But Cyan might not be too worried about the late game if he tries to eke something out here in the early game. Now I'm unsure, like it's kind of hard to call if this would be for, say, a Stargate or a Robo, or there are rare cases a Gateway that comes down and it's super frustrating, but I don't think we're seeing it go that direction. I think that Reaper on one hand is going to have to try and scout to see, oh, he's just looking for he's looking for a proxy right off the bat, but needs to get over to this base and see that there's only one pylon in the main. Once he realizes there's only one pylon in the main, the immediate thought of proxy will come into play, and he may then go scout with a Reaper. Otherwise, he would have wasted time, say, harassing probes. But it is going to be a Stargate, and I'm kind of hum and haw at this. First off, I feel like Stargate openers of all kinds of proxies are kind of the weakest. They used to be really good, but the Oracle's been changed and tweaked almost as many times as the Cyclone has. No, let's be real. Nothing's been changed and tweaked as many times as the Cyclone has, except for maybe the bunkers related nerfs and buffs over the years. But jokes aside, two kind of interesting things are happening. One is it's a third CC fast out of Bomber. This is noteworthy because this is going to be another 400 minerals he's not going to have to put towards defensive units, defensive structures. So in this weird case of a proxy Stargate, this may work out better than expected because of the investment Bomber's taken in making this third base. But of course, there will be enough Marines to fight this if it's just one. Usually you'll see them wait for two, but either way, it's going to be a pretty low Marine count, so he'll be able to protect one base, but not both bases. So the Oracle may just see all the Marines at the natural and go straight to the main, or see no Marines at the natural and kill it all. A production's picking up now. It's a little funny watching 3 racks come down as a priority over a factory because of how valuable medevacs and starport units are, but this will work out, especially because of the Stargate play. Now, I do want to point out that Reaper scouting never did actually properly get to the main base. I didn't really pay attention to it because I didn't think it would, and frankly, it didn't. So there's a pretty big lack of information going into this. The Marines end up working to be kind of a blind counter, and the high production rate will actually have the numbers to take this on. If this was one barracks producing with a factory and a starport behind it, maybe the Cyclone could help a little bit, but the Marines might have just gotten bullied by the combination of an Oracle and 4 Adepts. Oh, I think it was 3, excuse me. But either way, this was manageable, this wasn't bad, and this has worked out well for Bomber. And because Bomber gets away with this third base so quickly, this risk ends up not being a risk and ends up being an asset. He'll be able to pretty quickly shift that over to the third base, leaving Cyan in a bit of trouble because, well, even if he takes his own third and has more probes, Bomber's gonna be able to spread out his workers more efficiently sooner, and that should give him a very nice early game income lead. Now, this isn't quite the push style I was talking about before, but this is a really invested push of Marines. And it looks silly to do, but they have stim, which makes this viable, because in any other situation, the stalkers would just kite them down all day. That Oracle's getting a little bit more done than I think these Marines wanted. These two come in as a bit of a surprise as well. 8 SCVs end up dying, but there's not going to be a third base at this rate. Alright, so the pylon here gets taken care of, the probe goes down, whatever, who cares? There wasn't a nexus to kill, there wasn't a nexus to deny. One thing Bomber's going to realize, unfortunate for him, is that there's sentries and shield batteries at the natural, so these Marines won't be able to push in. This means his early army advantage is kind of wasted. If he attacks, I think pulling back would actually be the smartest move he could make, because sacrificing those Marines will just never be worth it. And let's not forget, he can bridge the damage he took from those Oracles pretty decently because of that faster third. It's not just helping produce more SCVs, or should be helping produce more SCVs. There you go. We'll supply block to the best number. But it's also going to provide the extra mule to help just manage the income while he gets real workers in play. Missile turrets are up. This will help deter these Oracles. This one was going in the production line. This stim hurts. This is lasting damage because there's still no medevacs in play yet. They're coming, but it just makes it so these Marines are even weaker the next time the Oracles come in. Oh, there's a Warp Prism looking to add into the mix. Pylon's coming down too. I feel like Cyan's really stepped it up. I don't know if it just he wasn't prepared in game 1 for Bomber. Game 2 wasn't even like a distinctively, oh my god, Cyan had that victory. Game 2 for me was a little bit like Cyan's playing well and Bomber is the reason he lost, if that makes sense. But this game in game 3, I'm feeling Cyan. Like he's making the right moves. More importantly, back at home, I'm not talking about the Stargate. I couldn't honestly care less about how this has affected the game. I think what's really valuable is the fact that there's going to be a Colossus coming up behind it. Oh, barely doesn't kill that. That's frustrating. But yeah, Colossus coming out. Colossus on the loose, as it were. This isn't gonna super hard counter Bomber, but because he's mostly Marines, this is gonna do a lot of damage. And having 2 of them is gonna be even worse to deal with. Extended Thermal Lance is about 50% of the way completed, so realistically, by the time a real fight happens, they should have that range bonus to work with. And the Warp Prism is going to start making its moves. We saw how much damage this did last game, which does leave me a little worried for Bomber, because I fear that he might not deal with this super well. He's been very gung-ho and just going across the field and not coming back to defend, which is fine. I feel like that's actually how you should play Terran a lot of the time, but I know game 2 he just took an exceptional amount of damage. We also see the Oracle's constantly casting Revelation on the bio, so it's, for Cyan, he's got a pretty good idea where the army is. He doesn't need to tag the Marines so much as the medevacs, because that army's not going anywhere without the medevacs. And if you guys have never seen Revelation before, here's a quick little point of view for Cyan. It doesn't give you the vision of the units, but it shows you their immediate vicinity. So the point is... Shut up, Diva.
We're going to the late game.
Nobody likes you, Diva. Go back to your game. But anyways, the point is Cyan knows where the army is. It's not about knowing exactly how much or anything. It's just knowing where it is that's very important. Meanwhile, I think there are 2 Colossus. Third one's... Oh, 3 on the way. Excuse me. A 4th one on the way. At some point. Yeah, there we go. We got Warp Prism speed gonna help a little bit too. We got charge plus 2 weapons. Actually, it's pretty funny to see the weapon upgrades, considering for years it's been pretty standard that armor versus Terran is best. But then you make the exception of having something like a Colossus in play, and oh boy, those things without weapon upgrades are just gonna mow through the Marines. That bonus damage versus light is crazy. Which is it's still new to me. Like, I know this isn't new to the game, but it's been what, 7 years without any bonus damage versus light, and then in the last year it's been bonus damage versus light. It's just one of those things I think I know in my brain, but I'm still just not getting used to. I don't know how many times I see it. So they always end up doing so much more damage to bio than I expect. But then the funny contrast is, of course, Colossus do like nothing to Marauders, right? So it's just like all the Marines fall over and the Marauders are left. Yeah, we see harassment in the main, harassment in the third. It's like Oracles went in for the natural, but 2 missile turrets drive it off. Bomber's not taking any guff from this minor harassment, but man, there's 4 medevacs over here that have been caught. 4 medevacs over here that are going home. Bomber not finding the freedom to do any damage has actually not been able to punish Cyan as he continues to expand. Now, granted, Bomber's expanding too, but with Cyan and Bomber, I don't know, it's kind of tough. Like, incomes are pretty close. Army supplies are pretty close. The area of effect damage versus splitting, it's going to be very interesting to see how this plays, because there's disruptors, there's going to be archons, but if you want to think of it in terms of like weaponry, Cyan's a glass cannon, man. He's got a lot of damage output, but not a lot of durability. Like, once those Colossus fall, this army's over.
Just fucking talk about this.
And he doesn't, wait a minute, he doesn't actually, okay, he just noticed too, he doesn't have concussive shells. That's a problem for dealing with these zealots. Obviously it won't affect against the Colossus, but oh, he's got to dodge past those disruptor shots. Getting some good hits in here. Trying not to take too much damage from the Colossus. Wants to knock down the Nexus. But realistically, just trying to force Cyan to come to him and not vice versa. Meanwhile, quad drop heading for the natural base. It's a lot of medevacs, a lot of potential damage, but as you can see, your Cyan's responded already. Disruptor shot coming in. Oh! 2 Marauders do a flip. This has killed quite a few probes, but I don't know. The Colossus are starting to clean this up. The medevacs are going down to the Stalkers, so loses everything here for 13 probes. Not sure I like that. I think the 10 workers and leaving would have been a better combo personally, but he's going to find the army split and try and take advantage of this. The Colossus respond to the attack towards the third. They should be able to just hit the Nexus and GTFO. And once they're out of there, the fourth base gets attacked and another Nexus probably going to fall soon. This ends up killing the worker line at the natural and killing 2 bases on the outskirts. This is going to kick Science Econ right in the balls. Blink's also being researched right now too. This factory's I didn't realize this factory's like an early warning against Orpans, I guess. Look, it's kind of hard to measure things right now in terms of pacing. Upgrades are kind of similar, weapons over armor, but Liberators I think are going to make a really big difference. Stalkers don't have blink, and I don't know if Bomber picked up on that or if that's just coincidence through timing and pacing. But we're gonna have Liberators with range around the same time Stalkers with blink are in play. It's already gonna be difficult to deal with the Liberators because his army up to this point hasn't been mostly Stalkers. But it's gonna get even worse once Bomber's got Liberator range. You know, he's gonna fly up, you'll set up a landing zone, or actually with these chokes, oh my god. If there's if 2 Liberators just set up over here, that army's gonna keep funneling in and dying over and over again. Or at least that's a concern that Cyan fans may have. Bomber, on the other hand, going to try and take advantage of this choke through the mineralized. The pickup on the Marauder was nice. Colossus still holding pretty firmly. It doesn't have to commit to this, but he is going to take advantage of this kind of chaos and cancel a base up here. Good reaction out of Cyan not to lose it, but still, the base goes down. And I didn't bring up the income from the previous fight, but I think if we do, it is going to very much favor Bomber. And it's entirely to be expected with all these bases going down. Cyan's got these great units to fight with, but if he can't defend the actual Nexus, then it doesn't really matter. He picks off 1 Liberator, loses 4 Stalkers for it. These trades are very costly and not so great. Top left, though, Bomber's losing out on this battlefield. But all of this was not done without some retaliation. We see some Zealots have made it in over here. I guess the Warperson died. The Liberator's set up to deal with this, so they will shoot these Zealots down. And with the white attack animation, you can now tell that there's Liberator range in play. Something that was definitely missing for these last few fights. But how many? Like 5 Nexus have died so far this game? 3. Okay. I guess there's more cancels than I realized, but still, this has put quite the hamper on Cyan. You know, at this point in the game, he would love to be building TTs and carriers and whatever. Unfortunately, he's really stuck with the units he's got. And, oh, a little bit of lag spike there. The regret here is the units he's got don't do well against Liberators. So they're going to tear apart the Marines with Disruptors. They're going to shred the Bio with the Colossus. They're going to do crazy splash damage with the Archons. And that's if any of them survive the Liberator blasts. Those are going to be hitting for like, what, 80 a shot? It's going to do most of these units HP in like 1 blast. I think Stalkers take 3 shots. God knows how many for the Archons. Zealots take 2. But I mean, there's so many of these that are going to be firing. The position here on the ramp to zone this out means there's no way Cyan can walk up here to engage. This makes him take the long way back home, which means in turn he's going to lose another Nexus. Bomber's playing a hell of a game here, guys. Gotta say. It didn't start out strong. I was really worried for him, but this is looking more and more clutch as time goes on. The Liberators, unfortunately, have to reposition, and they do so a little late. But that being said, most of the Stalkers are already taken care of. The Archons pop off, and that Bioforce is not done yet. There's reinforcements on the way. Oh, that Colossus. That Colossus. Oh, no, no, no. Gets caught by the Marauders. A great distraction tactic. Immortal goes down. Nexus is gone. GG. Bomber ends up taking the series 2-1. And that should give us a really sick follow-up game in what should be Tasia versus Bomber next. But before I go to a commercial break and send you guys off, let me just go ahead and double check that information, because I have no reason to assume Tasia lost. Tasia did in fact win. So it's Bomber versus Tasia coming up next, guys. We're going to make sure we get into that one, but I am going to go to commercial before we do. Thank you, Kikai, for the sub. And if you guys are watching this live, or hell, if you're watching this later, please consider checking out the donation link. I'll make sure it's always in the description somewhere if you need it. But if you're live on Twitch, !donate. That way we can help some people out in Minneapolis who are going to be dealing with COVID-19s after these protests are done. I'll see you guys in a few. Thanks for watching.
creeping through the rhythms of my heart. In the night I feel you here, whispering inside my ear, telling me the secrets of my thoughts. When night is falling and all the lights they flicker fade, reflections scroll through the mirror. A distant calling, a hum inside the current's face, the silence roll ever nearer. It's in the cracks in the wall, ever watching you into the back of a phone. And when everything is upside down, when you're yelling but you make no sound, life is gonna spin you round.
Okay, we're back. Howdy, boys. We have another game starting up here, but before we hop into it, just quick call to action. We need some backup on Stream Raiders. I just had to use a retry token on this map, and we're probably not going to win it again, but I'd like to give it a good try. So 15 minutes to pile in. But for everyone else, welcome back to the channel. You're watching the ESL Pro Tournament for Asia. And in this cup, we got two Koreans facing off here in round 2. To the bottom right. Oops, let's flip the names around in the overlay. Flip them. To the bottom right, we have the red Terran player Tasia, of course from Team Liquid. And to the top left, we have his opponent, the blue Terran Bomber. And of course, while this is not in any way affiliated with the ESL Cup, I am running a charity this week, and all donations and stuff from the stream, all the bits that we're getting, are going towards that charity. In fact, we will be casting later with Mapu for NA, and he's opted to say just put it all towards the charity, which is really nice of him. So if you guys want to donate, !donate, it goes towards COVID-19 relief in Minneapolis. And again, I'm not going to make tonight political. Just if you're willing to donate, please do. And if you're not, just enjoy the show. But it's a 2 racks to start off the game. I guess Terran vs. Terran's been pretty cheesy, and in some cases even disappointing. Current events. But I think that this is still a pretty strong opener in a best of 3. Now, it's not to say Bomber will die to this, but Bomber scouting it will greatly improve his chances of dealing with it. Unfortunately, though, unlike other matchups like PvP, you don't have an SCV constantly zipping around the enemy's base looking at what they're doing. TVT is a little bit more blind, and that's why builds like this kind of work from time to time. Yeah, it'll be 1 or 2 Reapers to start, and Bomber can probably match that initially, but if at any point he gets greedy and builds like a reactor, for example, he could be in a lot of trouble. I also want to note that these guys did not build towards the ramp. This is, I think, something a knee-jerk reaction most Terran players will just do by default, you know, autopilot, but in TVT it actually makes some sense not to. He puts a bunker, or excuse me, not bunker, supply depot over here on the ledge. This will help provide some scouting to see what's going on. Tish is going to hide the first Reaper. Okay, so he really wants to come in and overwhelm, not trickle in and try to win. This isn't a bad tactic, of course, and this increases the chance Bomber might feel comfortable enough to build, say, a reactor. But it doesn't look like he's... Oh, he is. It's a tech lab. Well, either way, not having a Hellion producing out of the factory is the end goal here. Reactors build a lot slower than a factory, a tech lab, so that should be finished soon. He should be able to get a Cyclone out to really lock this down and keep it from getting too much out of control. It's just 2 Reapers from now, but 2 becomes 4, 4 becomes 6, and then it's game over. You know, bleeding on STV or 2 is not that bad. Getting the Reaper would be huge. He dives for it. He goes really deep for it. He's not gonna... Oh god, he gets it barely, but he loses 2 Reapers for the 1. I mean, exceptional trade out there for Bomber, clearly, but at the same time, you know, he's losing SCVs. He's not mining with all of them. This Reaper here, if he gets tagged, won't heal anymore. And Tasia says, you know what? If you're not going to fight me, then I'll just kill your workers. And honestly, that's an okay trade. The problem is, I think he knows there's a Cyclone coming out soon, and this fight isn't one he can continue much longer. So, as you can see, he's already lifting up to back away. We're probably going to see this barracks float up and scout, if not go back home immediately. Either way, a factory at the ramp, a full wall off, and a CC safely on the high ground guarantee that Tasia won't die to an immediate counterattack from Bomber. But he also won't have an easy time defending this. The best thing he's going to have going for him is high ground vision. That's about it. Bomber's committing a bit more to this than I expected, by the way. Magfield Accelerator in retaliation. That's obviously not going to affect the Reaper fight very much, but it is going to super duper affect tearing down the buildings or just winning a Cyclone versus Cyclone battle, which might just be the case. It's a little awkward. That second barracks is going to go across the map to scout. A single Marine comes out of it too. I've actually, oh gosh, I think, was it Ryung? I can't remember. Innovation played versus somebody, and he used this barracks and landed in this mineral line and built a Marine right here. And, you know, game over type thing. It was funny and really effective. That's not what's happening here. This is just going to be a glorified Overlord scout, more or less. The Cyclones with Magfield Accelerator will definitely kill that barracks, but not before it gets to see what's going on. And he did not see the third CC. That's a big scout to miss. I don't think a third CC is that big of a deal in TVT in the grand scope of things, but when you're in Tasia's shoes at this early stage trying to gauge whether your opponent's going to be all-inning you or playing a macro game, this barracks unfortunately did not get the information he wanted. These Reapers, however, might just get that info. They're going to go for the mineral line, but as they kite out of the base, they may just graze past the third CC. Oh god, he's not going to see it. He's really not going to see it. Oh, this is tough. This barracks from Bomber looks hilarious too in counterattack, but this is going to give high ground vision, and that's where that Magfield Accelerator upgrade is going to work out well, because he's just going to shred anything he gets his hands on. Tasia's tanks should theoretically blow apart the Cyclones, but the Cyclones, if they lock on the tank is super dead. So Tasia, it doesn't seem like a big deal move, but pulling the tank back from the ledge momentarily like that was huge. Unfortunately though, he still doesn't have all of his bases covered, and this is a fight that might even kill his CC because there's 4 Cyclones that are all dealing twice the damage as usual. If Tasia loses the CC, I mean, it might be game over. He's building a third. Oh god. But he doesn't know the Bomber already has the third. In Tasia's mind, he's probably thinking like, oh, you know what? That's a small setback, right? I have another CC building. I can recover. Bomber's like, no, dude, I'm actually so far ahead from this. Now he's missed out on making this an orbital. Ugh. There you go. Cancel the SCV to build it. But the point is, he's done. Bomber's been doing a great job here in game 1. That's all there really is to it. Ooh, did you see that neck crack, by the way? Let's see if I can get the other side. It didn't come through on the mic, but oh god. Stretching and cracking is like, the older you get, the better it feels. Now, unfortunately, these Cyclones are doing a lot of a soft contain maneuver. They're not going to be trying to push up into Tasia's base, but at the same time, Tasia cannot move out. He can't expand. He can't do anything really. He builds a third CC in the high ground. I like this because he has to make up for the damage he took earlier. You know, for Bomber, he's almost fully saturated at the natural. He's 11 workers up. His income is starting to skyrocket in comparison, and even mules for Tasia won't keep him alive long, especially if it's 3 bases versus 1. I mean, you can have 3 CCs but still be stuck on 1 base, and that's been Tasia's story for this game up until now. This was a really well-positioned command center, I gotta say. The fact that it dodged scouting on 2 different occasions, it's lucky a little bit. Let's be honest. Like, the positioning was good because the chance of getting scouted up here was low, but the fact that it actually didn't get scouted is what makes it a good position. Anyways, look, Tasia very far behind in terms of expanding, but he is getting there. It's interesting watching him double down into hyperflight rotors, though. I don't particularly think this is a great upgrade for TVT. I've seen it work. Players like Innovation and Miss Gumiho and a few others have done this before, and I've seen them make it work, but I mean, I don't know, guys. Not out of this position. Now, if you don't know how this works, sorry for the odd person out there. Hyperflight rotors increases the move speed of Banshees. If you can visualize how fast an Oracle moves, they move at approximately that same speed with the upgrade. It doesn't make them attack faster, it just makes them so much more difficult to catch. It makes them so much more maneuverable. Those are some really good kills the Banshee's starting to rack up, because it's picking off not just SCVs, but more notably the SCVs that are on the new production facilities. So this eats into Bomber's production a little bit. Still, nothing that great. He lost the Banshee, but he's still going to continue investing in hyperflight rotors, which I find odd. I guess he really wants to make use of these in the game. This is the weirdest TVT, just by the way, now because of moves like this. Since normally the case would be you would go for Ravens, and there's a bit of a Raven standoff. A couple Ravens here, a couple Ravens there. Not been the case here. In fact, none for Bomber either, which I think is really strange. He's playing mech, so he doesn't need Ravens as badly, but I really thought after he saw the first Cloak Banshee, at least one would be warranted, just because of its good overall use, but also free detection. Well, we may see him change his mind on that in a little bit. We're gonna follow these Banshees around a bit. Lazy eye in the sky it is, boys. Yeah, reports of a high-speed chase down the middle of Nightshade have these Banshees almost unstoppable. Bomber's forces unfortunately can only run away and really can't do too much else about it. Back to you, news crew. Thank you, Dave. Well, Dave and the Chopper gave us a pretty good bird's eye view of what was going on there, and the trade out was pretty minimal, and the joke probably not worth it. But it is worth noting that through all of this, Tasia has finally, I feel, bridged the damage he's taken. His income is going to be behind, but it shouldn't be for as long or as bad as it has been over the last 5 minutes. And more to the point, as good as Cyclones are, they also cannot simply dive into a bunch of siege tanks. But those Cyclones are going to knock everything out of the sky, and if Tasia has any Vikings, he doesn't, but if he does have any Vikings, they'll die very quickly, meaning Liberators are king. And if these Liberators can push off those siege tanks, force them to unsiege for even a moment, that's when this army moves in, and Bomber should, by all means, have the upper hand. I'm just gonna say it though, guys. I've watched a lot of good TVTs. This is the weirdest one in terms of pacing and upgrades and decision making. Like, Hyperflight Rotors isn't terrible, but it always changes the game up a fair bit. God, Banshees are so cool with the extra jetpacks they get. But oh god, there's no missile turrets. Oh, there's no missile turrets. He's just gonna get to sit here until Tasia responds with the Cyclones, which I don't think he even has any yet, does he? No, he's got literally no anti-air. There's actually nothing to shoot back. He's building Cyclones now. Oh, Banshees get caught in the bottom side while this is going on. Everything is just falling apart on Tasia here as he tries to take a ninja base. No, Tasia, this doesn't work. It's always a great idea, but it never works. Oh man. Yo, in TVT, I think there's some basics that go from like silver to grandmaster, and it's usually like the game becomes heavily about the air through Vikings and through other means of fighting back against said Vikings, but without any to fight with. Tasia's just losing this game to 2 Liberators, which sounds like a lot of hyperbole, but look at the worker count now. It's 4 bases for Bomber, excuse me, 5 bases for Bomber, and more to the point, he's on 87 workers. Well, Tasia maybe gets away with his ninja base, maybe doesn't, who knows. His worker count isn't even that high. He can't even fully saturate this base once it's finished. Unlike Bomber, who's just building another command center and is oversaturated on all of his bases. So as soon as this is done, he can transfer them over, no problem. shot from the siege tanks, grabbing a few of those cyclones. Hellbats are nothing. Those cyclones were the scary thing. In fact, these siege tanks aren't even that terrifying. It's not worth running into them, but I'm just saying those cyclones going down was huge. Oh, but blue flame or just regular flame? Spoiler alert, no, just regular flame. But still, Hellbats can kill SCVs very quickly. And man, it's been about a minute since I've seen Hellbat drops. I know we're joking about this matchup, like what year is it, Tasia versus Bomber? But these tactics are kind of old school too, and I like them. Of course, the reason Hellbats and medevac drops aren't that popular, especially with mech, is just because they don't usually work out that well. But in this case, for Bomber, he's now killed a grand total of 44 SCVs. So regardless of what the tactics are, Liberator or Hellbats, I applaud them all. And now funny if Bomber's the one finding himself without anti-air, there's literally nothing to shoot this Banshee. There's not a cyclone within like 10 miles. Oh my God. Everything about this for both players has been a severe lack of anti-air, but I think Bomber's about to get the most ultimate advantage in this regard. Now here's the drawback, right? Battlecruisers are big, they're badass, and they actually do work in PvT. The problem is, well, there's not going to be a bunch of Vikings waiting for them. There are going to be things like these Cyclones, which are going to deal tremendous bonus damage versus Battlecruisers. But we got to get there first. Here comes the push. Siege tanks setting up around the outskirts. I don't know if Tasia has range. He doesn't. Bomber's siege tanks are in the better position here. This is not a fight for Tasia to commit to. And in fact, Bomber's just going to drop tanks on top of tanks. Tanks are the sickest counter to tanks, guys. But jokes aside, that worked out really well because without any Vikings to zone out the medevacs, there was no fear of just dropping those units. So while this Banshee's on 20 kills solo, the battlecruisers are revealed and Cyclone production needs to go into overdrive. No wait, Tasia says screw it. GG taps out and Bomber takes game number 1. Oh, but you know what? The Stream Raider battle's pretty much good to go. So I'm just going to run this really quick. Oh, we're 100% going to lose this again, but that's okay. We'll just get it out of the way and then we'll get a new map and hopefully the new map will be more our size. Because the last time we were doing this, we had a pretty big audience and I guess it just carries over on the same map. So it feels a little bad, man. Sorry to let you guys down like that. But okay, let's hop into game 2 and not miss out on this. All right, I'll just run Stream Raiders in the background because it is like, it is a for sure loss situation. So yeah, okay, I'm just gonna hit play. It's muted. Sadly, you guys won't watch the battle much, but hopefully the next battle we do will be a little bit better for us. Also, today marks the start of PvP. There's a new $20,000 PvP tournament we're gonna be participating in. And qualifiers technically start today at I think 1 p.m. Pacific. So definitely be back for that, guys. But it's game number 2 in spawning here in the bottom left side of the map with a severe lack of anti-air. Taps out to the battlecruisers. He is Tasia. And his opponent to the top right. Another severe lack of anti-air, but tactically worked because he went for battlecruisers. So in the top right with 1 point on the board, it's Bomber. What's so crazy to me about the way that went was Tasia actually has a really high level of TVT. In fact, Cure versus Tasia might be my most anticipated matchup period of all players of all regions. So I know his TVT is good. So it makes it exceptionally weird to watch the way that paced out, right? It started with Proxy Reapers, which were kind of like hit or miss. I guess they never miss, huh? But more to the point, it was just kind of some sloppy mid-game play, I feel. Like, nothing about the mech from either player was that exceptional to me. I don't think anyone had really great engagements. More like both of the other players just kept walking into siege tanks or having tanks dropped on top of their siege tanks. And then it just kind of like, those 2 Liberators did how much damage, right? The battlecruisers had no answer. So much of that game just felt like we went away from the basics of TVTR. And that's not a bad thing, and I'm not complaining about it. In fact, if anything, I'm going to kind of weirdly praise it. Because as bad as it looked, and as how sloppy as it felt, both players were in that situation, because both players were thrown off by the way the game was going. Nobody played standard because nobody had the freedom to, right? Bomber had to very quickly invest in a way to deal with Reapers. Tasia had put Reapers out there. His own starport was delayed so heavily because of it. questions about scouting. I don't want to get too nerdy about this, but I think it was just kind of cool that it ended up being a sloppy game, because I think it was both these guys just playing beyond top level, ending up in this new territory of like, what are we even doing? Because if anyone tells you anything about TVT, it's typically, you know, mech or bio, doesn't really matter, but there's like 2 to 3 Ravens associated with it. The emphasis on how powerful Vikings are has always been a core component for this matchup. Vikings get you air control gets you vision, vision lets your siege tanks win. I think there was like 3 Vikings between 2 players that whole game. Just so strange, just so strange. But let's see if maybe this one ends up being a little bit more normal. Either way, Bombers being up 1-0 definitely puts him in a much better position than Tasia. Tasia can't afford to take any risks, so he puts a bunker down at the front of his base. I don't think this is because he's scared, and I definitely don't think he's worried about a proxy and retaliation, or otherwise he'd be kind of walking around the map. But he is playing safe. Playing safe means Bomber's going to get away with things at home that he wouldn't maybe normally get away with. And it appears that while we've accidentally made this lobby without game heart, sorry guys, just realizing now, Bomber will be going mech again. There's no reason for the barracks to be floating out here unless you plan to not use it. And I don't believe he plans to use it. So back at home, he's gone for Magfield Accelerator again. Now, I wasn't sure. Last game, this felt like this was more of a reaction than a build. But the fact that he's done it very quickly again in game 2 means maybe this is actually intentional. It's a change up though from Tasia. We have a Widow Mine coming out. Now, I don't mind Widow Mines. In fact, this is something only other Terran players are going to feel the pain of. But how like once in every 10 TVTs you get, it's a friggin' Widow Mine somewhere randomly on the map. You're going for your push. Suddenly you're like half your Marines are dead and you're missing your Hellion in the front. Infuriating. So these Widow Mines don't need to do tremendous things, but they can certainly disrupt early pokes. But more to the point, they can help deal with a cyclone that comes across the map really early, which may end up happening thanks to the barracks providing high ground vision and Magfield Accelerator being rushed out the way it has. Now, the Watchtower is going to help give vision on this too. And luckily, the way Tasia's built, there's nothing really around the ledges of his base. So even if cyclones were, say, coming in now, 2 of them, there's no add-ons to lock onto. There's no factories to kill. It would be just fine. So Tasia's in no immediate danger right now, especially with that siege tank setup. Any poke Bomber could pull off would end up costing him something. But 3 cyclones, make no mistake, is scary. Tasia micros this. No micro. Ends up wasting the Widow Mine on the Reaper. That's unfortunate. Marines on the high ground want this barracks to burn, because the second it starts burning, this becomes a lot less of a problem. Yeah, cyclones are doing big damage. It's taking a lot of SCVs just to barely, they're not even matching it. That bunker's gonna die. Realizing there's nothing in the bunker is kind of funny. It's just the bluff ends up getting revealed. Oh no, with all those cyclones on the other side of the field, there's actually nothing at home to stop this Banshee, and I'm getting some weird deja vu. Looks like there was a couple left at home. I guess those probably just recently produced. The Banshee does end up getting picked off. The barracks is pushed away. This ends up being a bit of a nothing fight for both sides, but Tasia has come out ahead, funny enough, and not because he slaughtered 100 workers. He's only killed 3. It's just his macro ended up being better for what he focused on, and Bomber put more into that push. So he's a little behind, but I mean, he's got a 3rd CC. Tasia is finishing his 3rd CC. I'm pretty sure by the time either of these players are on a 3rd base mining location, it's going to normalize out. But unfortunately, like I said, there's no game heart for this one, so I can't show you guys the income graph. But if you look down here, you can see the numbers. And a little bit hard to visualize off of this, but if I was the income graph, I'd be favoring Tasia a little bit. Not like a lot, just a little bit. It's mech versus mech again, and I'm kind of rolling my eyes a little bit at this because I wasn't super impressed at the last game, but I think some of those things that I was not impressed by are easily fixed. The anti-air to start with. Not trying to critique, just trying to note like a fact that there was very little anti-air in that last game. Ooh, Banshee's just barely not going to escape the scan radius. Missile turrets are finishing up now too. Really, this shouldn't stop Banshees, but it'll make it a lot more difficult to use them. Fourth CC's coming down very quick for Tasia. He's also getting Blue Flame, which I'm undecided about. Usually these fights are more about Cyclones and Siege Tanks, and Blue Flame doesn't tend to have that big of an effect on a frontline battle. But man, if those Hellions ever make it to the mineral line, it's just a bunch of death. It's Blue Flame death. Reaper pokes ahead just to make sure he's not going to walk into a bunch of Siege Tanks. I like that pre-split as well. Both players have mag-filled accelerator. The best thing that happens here is Tasia ends up having Bomber lock onto both the Hellions like this. And then ideally he gets the lock on himself, but he's just a little too far behind. It almost worked out perfectly for Tasia though. These lock-ons are kind of like really dumb disruptor style fights where it's just one unit's going to die for sure each time. A lock-on is essentially a death sentence for most units in the game, especially if they're considered armored with that upgrade. So the difference is, by the way, sorry for the non-Terrans out there, it's 400 damage normally. It's 800 versus armored units with that upgrade. Mag-filled accelerator is a hell of a thing to have, but oh no, that did not trade out quite evenly. Tanks are still better in general, and with this tiny little choke, Tasia shouldn't die to this. That tank is going to be huge. One tank is like half the health of a Cyclone. It's more than, it's like 60% of the health of a Cyclone per shot. So that ends up being terrible in terms of the Cyclone to Cyclone trade, but ends up being not so. What? Excuse me? Still doing, oh, he's misrallied or something. Look, this isn't that big of a deal, but having 4 SCVs versus 8 SCVs on the middle of the map doing dick all. Oh, sacrifices them. Blood for the blood god, or bits for the robot god. Either way, that was a little awkward from Bomber, but misclicks happen, so you know, not a big deal. He's up 1-0 in the series. It's weird though, he went for weapon upgrades and he's still doing it, because if he was more siege tank focused, I think this makes a lot of sense. But when you're going Cyclone Hellion, the big damage you get comes from your 2 upgrades, right? Blue Flame and Mag-filled Accelerator. So you can usually see Terran players prioritize the ship armor because it affects air units as well, but also just like whatever for the weapons, you've got the damage already. But if you have siege tanks, yeah, +2 makes a lot of sense. So I don't think it's terrible that Bomber's investing in the upgrades. It just seems odd with the composition to push it out like this. Either way, these 3 Hellions are starting to really rack up the kills. Oh my god. Blue Flame is nice. Blue Flame is very nice. This still though, I mentioned before, kind of evens things up. Did we just see 4K mineral income? Oh my god, we did. Tasia is bonkers right now with these mules. The style they're both going for, Cyclone Hellion. This is such a just glass cannon paper fight. Like everybody is going to die. It's just a matter of whose units all die first, because the bonus damage from both is huge. The key thing is having the Cyclones be behind the Hellions. There's going to be a lot of automatic lock-ons and not a lot of micro with the lock-ons. And if the Cyclones end up wasting their lock-ons on the Hellions, then the other Cyclones get to lock on the Cyclones, and you get to watch Tasia chase Bomber back up double the army supply. That was like a 2-second fight. That was like a 2-second fight. It really goes to show how explosive the damage on these units are. I mean, we all know it. It's not like I need to tell you this, but visualizing it sometimes, oh my god. So as he comes up the ramp, it's 18 Cyclones to 11. Let's say Bomber locks onto every single one of Tasia's Cyclones. Tasia still ends up having like 8 extra Cyclones to kill Bomber back with. So if there was siege tanks here for Bomber, I would feel very differently about his position. But he doesn't have siege tanks, and that +2 weapons upgrade feels like it's going to waste. Meanwhile, Hellions transform into Hellbats and focus on killing SCVs. 2 more slip up to the main, but the main army is going to find the Cyclones, and in a weird, horrible slap fest, this game may come to a conclusion. He kills the command center. That's pretty big. Centers in, just goes for the Cyclones. Lock-on is absolutely demolishing it. This is so stupid to watch. SCVs are actually a really good pull. Just kidding. Blue Flame still here. Bomber losing way too much for this. 56 workers dead. Even if he cleans this up. GG. Yeah, he knows. GG. Tasia ties up the series 1-1. Well, that was just about as messy as the first game, but it was a lot closer for most of it. just that tipping point, that boiling point, not being able to recover from that fight. Just because that's the thing, that damage is not supposed to be something you recover from and trade out. That's a you do it all in one go type move. So map 3 is being hosted here pretty quickly. The destination is Everdream. Let's just wait on in over here. But while we wait for this to start, as you can see, there are many other wonderful people covering the cup tonight. Thank you guys for those who are hanging out over here. I appreciate you coming over. I don't really have a lot to say because tonight's not like a super tryhard tonight. I might not even finish casting the whole tournament. We're just going till we can't go no mo, as I do need to get some sleep at some point. I'll be doing the NA one for sure later on today, but I will also be doing Stream Raider PvP beforehand. Someone came in and asked me if I was excited for the 20k tournament, and the answer is yes, very much excited. We got 9th place in the last one. Hopefully we can get a little bit more in this one. Who's Zuka? I don't know who Zuka is. All right, we're back at it. It's game 3, and we're being blessed with more games for the smaller cup size. Spawning here in the bottom left side of Everdream, we have the red Terran player. He is Team Liquid's Tasia. And in the upper right, we have the blue Terran. It's Bomber. Now, I know Tasia has GSL coming up at some point this month. We're doing a holdout challenge with him. And there's been a lot of headache trying to reschedule the holdout challenge because there's the GSL photo shoot. And then, of course, if Tasia's group is too close to the date, he'll want to move it because he wants to focus on GSL. GSL is right around the corner. And the reason I bring this up is not to make excuses for any of the way Tasia's playing, but I'm wondering, with genuine sincerity, if there's reservation in this series because he wants to hide belts for GSL, or if there's experimentation going on because he knows that this is the best time to try things out before he has to focus and go super try hard for GSL. Look, GSL is not directly impacting this game or impacted by this game, but it definitely raises some questions in terms of explaining why some of the decisions Tasia's making don't seem to be Tasia's normal route of things. Whereas for Bomber, I don't actually know. I haven't been following Bomber very much. I've been following Tasia pretty closely, but not Bomber so much. So I don't really know where he sits for things. I don't even know if he qualified in. I actually don't even know. I'm gonna just admit this to you guys. I don't even know who's qualified for GSL this season. I've just been kind of waiting to see what the groups are and when they are, because for me as an organizer, it's important to know when they are for planning, so I don't try and plan like a $1,000 tournament on the day of GSL, but also just know which players are around and available. So I've been a little bit, I'm gonna be honest, a little disconnected, but I think they're supposed to make all those announcements this week, so we should be able to finally lock in a bunch of stuff. Anyways, it's a lot of nonsense speak because at the end of the day, it may have no impact on this whatsoever. I just think it's worth mentioning because it is right around the corner. Kind of normal, actually, from the abnormal that we've had. So there's no Reapers, there's no proxies. It doesn't seem like anyone's rushing an attack. I guess command center timings are going to give us a little bit more insight, and there's bombers coming down pretty quickly. A little bit behind Tasia's, but nothing too devastating, and more looking towards the third CC timing than the natural. But Tasia was once again playing a little bit safer with a bunker out at the front. There's no hard reason not to do this. It's a small mineral investment that you'll get back mostly through salvaging the building later anyways, but there's definitely the argument to be made that this does take away from the early build. You might be putting your starport down a little bit later because you waited for the extra 20 minerals, kind of like Tasia just did. I'm not of the opinion that what's happened so far in this series, that a 3-second difference on a starport timing will affect whether this was a won or a lost game, but it's just worth noting the small ways this ends up affecting things. Oh, and they're both going for a Widowmine in this game. So I honestly found Tasia's Widowmine a little cheeky, but it would have been quite good if he was worried about cyclones, as he was evidently. Bomber feels like he's just doing this a bit of the same. With cyclones being so prevalent, he wants to make sure this Widowmine can help him deal with that. because Widow Mines do just a little bit more damage than Cyclones have health. Oh, I'm being informed by chat that Bomber qualified. I thought he didn't. See, this is what I'm saying with GSL info. I haven't followed very closely at all, guys. So we'll we can always give it a Google after. It's only gonna matter if he wins versus loses anyways. So I'm of course excited to see which of these guys move on in the tournament. As far as the bracket goes, just a real quick cap up here. We're already in the round of 16 with this. Next round is the round of 8, but the round after that is when players start qualifying for prize money. There's $50 for third and fourth, which doesn't seem like that much, but then you remember there's $100 for second and $200 for first place, and you realize, yeah, that's right, there's a lot of money on the line for these cups. Oh, I had a heart attack moment. The way I panned the camera over, I thought the Marines were firing at the Raven, and the health bar of the Raven was what was going down. I'm like, no, Bomber! But this is getting back to a lot more of the normal of what I'd expect to see, and this kind of makes sense. Let's say hypothetically here, both players were playing a little bit sloppy because both players were trying not to try too hard for fear of GSL or whatever the case may be. So game 3, they realize this is a deciding match. It's time to like focus the up. And not only is it normal in terms of like their build order and no proxies, but it is just getting Ravens out in the field for the first time in a TVT, which is absurd to say because Ravens are such an integral part of TVT that it was really weird to see one game without them, much less 2. Well, Reapers patrol the path in the middle. There's a Cyclone poking about. Unfortunately, if it goes in, it's gonna die. But this scout would be more valuable than anything to realize that there are 2 Ravens in play and a normal bio push, because every game so far has been Cyclones. Now it's not gonna affect Tasia's build or anything. Like scouting this, he wouldn't go, oh no, abandoned ship mech, start building bio. But it lets him know exactly what he's up against. And more importantly, it lets him know there's 2 Ravens in play. I can't stress this enough about the Ravens. They are such a big deal. Every ability they have is incredibly lethal to another Terran player. And so that's why they're so valuable in TVT. Auto turrets have really taken over ever since they increased the cost of interference matrix. But you know, interference matrix still blacks out the tank. It can cancel out another Raven. But auto turrets and raw DPS seem to be favored more than not for a lot of these early game scuffles. And this funny supply depot is going to get destroyed, but it's also a great scout to realize where the army was. This Widow Mine to the middle of the map is funny and cheeky. It's not going to kill tanks, but it is going to be annoying. Oh, skirt. Kind of gets away. I don't know. Bomber could have technically chased that, but it's better that he didn't waste anything. Another thing, I'm telling you guys, I think my predictions are right. I think both of these guys are playing a little weird in game 1 and game 2, and this feels like the focus game we were expecting for game 3. These auto turrets are going to be devastating. 3 of them, oh, they're late. The SCVs get to pull before they even go down. That's pretty bad, actually. And while auto turrets might trade out for more auto turrets, it's about this Vikings chasing down the Ravens potentially and eventually. Oh, he lost one of his own. He definitely has to kill those Ravens now to make up for it. Oh, loses both of his Ravens. This is bad. Mining time is denied here, and SCVs are going to be killed before this is over, but he lost both of his Ravens, and that's going to be very difficult to recover from. Picks off one of his opponents, might be able to chase these. This is so risky, because he knows if he goes diagonally, he'll cut off the Ravens. But if he goes diagonally, he risks running into a bunch of Marine backup. So unfortunately for Tasia, he's just basically traded out poorly. 2 Ravens for 1. Not ideal. I think the other thing that he's going to be very aware of, his opponent has also seen all of his Vikings. He'll probably be making some of his own. And so in a series, in a best of 3 TVT, in a high level best of 3 TVT, where the first 2 games had almost no Viking usage whatsoever, we're going to finally get to realize together the importance of Vikings here in game 3. And I cannot stress enough how big of a deal Vikings really are. Liberators may or may not come into effect here. I honestly don't think they will. It is going to be pretty much like vision through the Vikings that will matter most. It also means that if both players are producing Vikings, nobody's producing medevacs. So these Marines just end up being, quite frankly, cannon fodder, as heartless as that is to say, because they're just not going to get healed up. Stim damage is going to be permanent, and they should get obliterated by most tanks. And even if you do invest in medevacs as they are, they're likely going to get sniped off by the Vikings. Vikings on the ground deal bonus damage to mechanical. They tear apart that siege tank. Tasia ends up destroying this first fight. But it's one scuffle and the war is not won, just simply the battle. Also, those Viking guns look really cool on the ground. I've never really taken time to notice, really. Most of the time my Vikings on the ground, they're dead. So that's kind of cool. But weapon upgrades continue on both sides. I guess combat shield's missing for one, not the other? Okay, that's actually a noteworthy thing to bring up. With siege tanks, the combat shields are helpful, but ultimately not that big of a deal. But any kind of one-to-one marine fight, oh, those combat shields are the difference of winning and losing. So I'm actually surprised Tasia didn't have that till just now. Either way, it's finished. It's done. So he's got up. I will always remember this fact of how that interacts too, because years ago, Zombie Grub and I played an Archon mode tournament against pro players for Red Bull. We actually won our first series of the day because our opponents forgot combat shields in the final game. We had combat shields, and it wasn't even a close fight, despite the fact we had probably about equal Marines. And for me, that has solidified the power of combat shields in my head forever, because I haven't played a lot of pro games, much less won prize money. Side note, I'm still upset about this like 5 years later, because remember we got our prize money check from Red Bull, like, you know, like half a year later type thing. And for whatever reason, they didn't split it 50-50. Zombie Grub made like $80 more than me or something. It's not a huge deal, but we're just like, what the frick? Anyways, Interference Matrix takes out the siege tanks, but Tasia flanks from behind. Anti-armor hits those Marines, so they're basically like wet paper, but nothing really matters when you win the battle this hard. And this was devastating for Bomber. His front line is completely demolished, but he does have time to recover. Because even if Tasia were to walk across the map right now, by the time he gets there, Bomber should have at least 3 tanks out, maybe a couple more Marines. But make no mistake, that was a very good engagement for Tasia. And he was up against the wall, caught out of position. His siege tanks were stuck in limbo through the interference matrix. Anti-armor peppered the Marines. But now that he continues pushing, that momentum carries over. And what little Bomber has left to fight with doesn't seem like it's enough. And I think Tasia's just pulled out the win. GG. Tasia takes the series 2-1 over Bomber. And he will, of course, continue to advance in the brackets. I'm going to give them a quick refresh before you go to a break. And it appears, it'll be Tasia versus Scarlet coming up next. Well, as we know, getting into Scarlet's games can sometimes be a headache, so I don't want to promise anything, but we'll see what we can do, guys, because I would definitely like to continue following Tasia, but if we can't, there's a lot of other good matches going on. So I will be back in a few minutes. Thank you guys for watching. We'll do Stream Raiders probably in the background, as there's a couple minutes left on this one. I'll see you guys soon.
Nights are gonna take this town. Whoa, get a little bit And when everything is upside down, when you're yelling but you make no sound, life is gonna spin you round. Whoa, get a little bit stranger. When everything is upside down, a tremor in the underground. The nights are gonna take this down. Whoa, get a little bit stranger, stranger. Lost in the spaces behind. Hold out a hand in your mind. Don't have to face it alone. Lost in the spaces behind. Hold out a hand in your mind. Don't have to face it alone.
Well. We're actually getting into a game. I was trying to find out before this started, though, what the plan is for the semifinals, because they've been kind of inconsistent with start times. So I don't have info for you guys on that, since I can already predict some people asking. But we'll figure it out post-mortem, I suppose. Because this is the best of 3 you don't want to miss out on. Spawning here to the top left side of Simulacrum, we have the red Terran player. This is, of course, Team Liquid's Tasia. And in the bottom right, we have the blue Zerg. She's also stationed in Korea. It is Scarlet. Now, between the last series and this one, I did have to poke around a little bit and check the GSL qualification stuff. And yes, we already know Tasia's qualified through, but confirming Bomber didn't, at least not from what Wikipedia says. But it's funny to note that all that stuff I had brought up about like, will they, won't they show builds, Scarlet's in the same situation, because we know Scarlet qualified too. So this is a series that going into it should be really crazy hype, but might also end up being the best that they can play with, we'll call inhibitors or limitations, because they won't want to reveal too much info, especially because they don't know who's in the groups for GSL yet. They don't know who they're going to be playing against. And it would be a real shame if Tasia and Scarlet showed all their coolest, best moves in this ESL Cup and then got pitted against each other in GSL or something. So regardless, it's going to be a good match. I'm just really interested in how much of it's going to be affected by those outside sources. Because in fairness, a lot of the times, you know, you've got big events going on pretty regularly between Wardy and whatever TSL and all these other things going on. It doesn't tend to make people hide their builds too often. But I know GSL makes people practice more than anything else. Even when WCS was the main circuit, I would talk to players all the time at BlizzCon or events, and they'd all pretty much unanimously say, like, training for GSL is one of the most important things. In fact, I think there was a series of questions we used to do interviews with where I'd ask the players, would you rather win a WCS or a GSL? Because the big breakdown was that at a time, WCS was worth more money, but definitely less prestige. Whereas winning a GSL is very prestigious, even in 2020. So what was kind of cool was a lot of the players, pretty much most of them said they'd rather win a GSL. Although I think Special gave me the funniest answer of all players, because he had said he'd like to say GSL, but he wants the money from WCS. So honest, I suppose, at the very least. It was a lot of nothing talk because these guys went for safe openers. She didn't end up putting down like an early pool. Doesn't appear to be rushing a hive for Nidus Worms or anything. Same with Tasia, just playing somewhat normal with the CC timing. But we've gone from TVT to TVZ, and there's a lot of different timings, third bases included, that are going to be affected and important in the game. And as you can see, both players have gone towards their thirds already. Tasia's Granted, in the main base, Scarlet's on location. But this has me like with high hopes that we'll see a fun macro game out of this. I think macro games too, and I can't say this, I'm not a player, so I'm speaking purely speculation. But I have to imagine macro games are a little bit easier to play when you're hiding your builds, so to speak, because at that point, it's more about decision making on the fly and not, oh, when did Tasia cancel his SCV for that third base, or when did Scarlet cut drones? Like, no, at some point in the game, you're just throwing units of money at each other, and that doesn't require any kind of stealth. Tasia's Reaper actually ends up remaining in the main base. Scarlet may have simply assumed it left. I did. So it gets back in here right around the queen. Doesn't have a lot of staying power, mind you, but still the ability to continue to scout's nice. Can't nestle up here too long. The queen is coming to kick the Reaper out. A little second story ledge. Rest in peace, buddy. Two Hellions are not meant to do much. The two Hellions are still something you can't leave unchecked. Scarlet, yeah, I can see being very on guard with the queens. Of course, we all know Scarlet to be very good at creep spread, and that's going to be really good here. There's a little gap, but it's being bridged by this tumor. This means queens will be able to respond to any base location pretty quickly, even if they're out of position initially. Meanwhile, with Banshees come up for the follow-up, and I just got to say, as a remark to Banshees, I feel like we went an entire expansion where these things were pretty much useless. But in the last like half of a year, last quarter of a year, we've really seen Banshees start coming back to be not just more frequent, but more powerful. And I wonder how much of that has to do with the fact that, you know, you don't have to normally worry about defending against Banshees. So you kind of get complacent with it. Whatever the case is, we'll see how much damage this does, because Scarlet right now doesn't have any spore crawlers down. Granted, there are enough queens. But with the layered finishing up soon, Cloak could be a huge asset. Even if an Overseer gets morphed in, got to be in position. These Banelings too. Wait, where's the Overseer? Oh, it's over here at the third, above the mineral line. Well, any shots the Hellions get off to clean up creep is going to be nice. Scarlet's gone for a Spire for her weapon of choice, and she does have spore crawlers coming down now. So even with two Banshees to go around and kite kill drones around the outskirts of the spore crawler's range, she's going to be able to bring queens in, and she should be able to respond to this in fairly good time. Meanwhile, it's bio, not mech. This is important because we just watched Tasia play a bunch of mech games in the previous series. Granted, that was TBT, but here we are now with him playing bio against Scarlet. She's already on top of the Banshees before they even get their first shot off. That was bad. Oh my god, 5 HP. Well, they're dead. This goes right back with that creep spread. Scarlet with creep spread has the mobility to actually chase these Banshees down in situations where otherwise she wouldn't be able to. But all of the good creep denying that Tasia's doing can't seem to keep up with her spread. And while he does take a lot of tumors down, Scarlet's right back here on the front line to put down new tumors. So the damage is temporary at best. Worse than that, she continues to spread elsewhere on the map, making it very difficult for Tasia to be everywhere he needs to be at the same time. Back at home, he's also setting up a great wall of supply depots. Wants to make sure no easy Banelings can roll in. This also helps really funnel where your units go. For example, you can rally pretty much most of your units here and be in between the bases, since you know nothing's coming from the north side anymore. But that's, of course, hypothetically talking about ground units, and we have air units coming up. These Mutalisks are just going to fly around everything and be super frustrating, but the big question is she going to make only a couple to deal with medevacs and light harassment, or are there going to be more? I just recently cast a series where a Circle player had invested in something like 77 mutas over the course of a game. It was pretty messy and pretty nasty, but also very strong. So for now, Scarlet goes for a very light amount of investment, but she is going for weapon upgrades behind it. This will pay off in the long run. The weapon upgrades for mutas are nice, but not as necessary. Those are going to really help later on. Early game like this, I mean, 8 mutas is going to only kill like 1 or 2 SCVs anyways. Or they should, under good defensive circumstances. But it is worth noting she's continuing to invest in a lot of these. And Mutaling Baneling, it's not a bad composition at all. but it's not one that's meant to sit and fight for long periods. You burst, you back up. You burst with the next round of banelings, you back up. Being on creep like this is really advantageous for her as well. Oh, needing to pick up like that feels bad. Losing out on a lot of that front line. The siege tank goes down as well. Yeah, anytime she's on creep, big speed advantage. Off of creep, totally manageable for the Terran. So there is a weird terrain tug of war that's going on. The splits from Tasia are looking pretty fantastic. And he does hold his ground, literally against the ground. Loses here versus the Mutas. Those tanks do go down, but the Marines still stand on the front line. And the big thing about this pressure from Tasia is, well, this isn't exactly getting up on a hatchery and slaughtering drones. It's keeping Scarlet active and making more banlings. And the more money she has to keep reinvesting in banlings, the less money she has to invest in mutalisks. At 100 minerals and 100 gas a pop, you really can't afford to make 7 mutas. Well, there's Marines on your front line. Once she gets past 25 mutas, that's when they become, I think, viable fighting against Marines. But 14 like this is kind of risky. It's off creep. The Marines are trying to split. There's not that many banelings, but there's also not that many Marines. Oh god, the Widowmine's going to burrow, but what are they going to hit? The lanes maybe? Oh, double shots on the mutas. Neither. Denied. GG. Scarlet takes game number 1. That fell apart on Tasia in an absolutely magnificent and horrible kind of a way. Which I say, good job, Scarlet. And hopefully not as bad recovery for Tasia as he hops into game 2 coming up next. I don't know what the maps are in advance, but I was just going to look at the brackets, and it looks like, yeah, so our top semifinal...
Hey, bitch. Could you find it in your heart to cast the game?
That actually caught me off guard. Our top semifinal has time in it, waiting for DRG or Zest. The bottom semifinal is not ready, but the winner of this will move into that semifinal bracket. So... getting pretty close to the prize money team. But you can hear those beeps, so I should probably take the time to swap back over to the game screen. Silent Symphony, thank you for the 8-month resub. All right, well, more StarCraft 2 is at hand. I don't know, I kind of went to like Deckard Cain a little bit there. To the bottom right side of Nightshade spawns our Korean Terran, the red Team Liquid player, Tasia, who is up to no good for some retaliation. His opponent spawning to the top left, she leads 1-0. It is Scarlet. So Tasia's going to proxy racks, but it looks like it's just going to be a 2 racks for now. The difference of 2 racks and 3 racks is pretty noteworthy, but not worth discussing if there's only going to be 2. What I'm going to be looking at as well is whether gas gets taken, because this right now feels like it's just going to be for Marines, not so much Reapers. And I'm not super convinced by 2 racks all-ins, but if Tasia ends up using this as just an opener, you can certainly cause a lot of damage to Zerg. Scarlet may be baited into overreacting. It's kind of hard to say. Either way, Tasia's determined the path of this game, and it's up to Scarlet to respond. And this might be a not preferable build order for it. Gas before pool, so it's hatchery, gas, pool. This is going to delay queens, zerglings, and any kind of defensive unit. Not even spine crawlers can be made until a spawning pool is done. And she is about to scout this. Now, you could play off of this. I've watched Zerg players win off of this build order. Just disadvantaged because units will come out as slow as possible. For Scarlet, though, she does pull the Overlord away, and this is because she doesn't want to lose it to that first Marine that comes out, but she's really taking a bit of a gamble, assuming it's just simply a 2 racks build. As if you've been watching Cure and a few other good Terrans, they'll put that 3rd barracks back up over here type thing. And most Zerg will discuss the very different ways in which you can defend proxy barracks, but if it's 3 racks, man, it takes a little bit more than just some good micro. Drones down here to try and zone this out. If the SCVs are left alone, they're gonna get killed. It has to pull back, but then the bunker's abandoned, so cancels the bunker. Scarlet just has to buy a little bit of time here while the drones mineral walk through to surround the Marines. The Marines try to take as good of a fight as they can get, but this has already been pretty well handled. With no bunker completing, there's nowhere to hide in for these Marines, and this attack's pretty much done for. Tasia, though, not wanting to go super all in, as I mentioned before, not Reapers, not a 3rd barracks, so back at home, as expected, he does have a factory being built. And by the time Scarlet were to counterattack fully, Tasia should have at least a Hellion out to defend that wall. In fact, his last couple of Marines doing way better than the first several. Really good kiting, actually. Really good kiting. I do feel like the Queen and any further Zerglings, though, should be plenty. Yeah, the Marine investment at this point is pretty weak. He's continuing to build. It's a Reaper for this barracks. I guess he'll bring both the barracks back home and he'll use the Reaper to scout, is I say with a question mark. Natural Command Center. Coming down to the main base to do it safely. And I'm actually just going to mute for a moment, guys, because I think I need my inhaler as I can feel a little bit of wheezing in my breathing. So just one moment. I know that was probably the coolest statement anyone's ever made, but yeah, one sec, guys. Okay, let's hope that helped. So he ends up scouting with the barracks as well, which is a little odd, but I guess they'll have a lot more longevity than the Reaper. As you can see, this thing's already been shooed away. Tasia's pivot, though, to a fusion core leaves me a bit of a question mark. Let's say, hypothetically, he's rushing a battlecruiser here. That battlecruiser is going to take a long time to come out. Scarlet, by then, should have more than enough queens to hold against it. But I guess she's not going to be able to break this wall anytime soon. She does have Lings out and about. Ooh, they almost catch the Reaper. Oh, they do catch the Reaper. Oh, unfortunate for Tasia. But with 2 Marines and 2 Hellions at the top of the ramp is secure. It's just a matter of whether he can actually expand to the natural or not. Fusion core is done. 400 minerals, 300 gas. Let's see if he can get that battlecruiser out. I think Hellions are probably a little bit more effective, so stalling out the BC for that makes sense. But he also just doesn't have the gas count, so continued Hellion production while this goes on. The barracks is about to fall, and 3-2 battlecruiser. Now here's the pros and the cons of it, right? I'm a little bit less than enthused for this battlecruiser because of the timing in which it's coming out. If Scarlet has even as much as just like 3 transfuses and 4 to 5 queens, dealing with 1 battlecruiser is not that big of a deal. In fact, she'll have spore callers to aid in beyond that. But the thing about a well-played battlecruiser is it doesn't have to be an all-in, and it doesn't have to do crazy damage. It just needs to never die. Because as long as that battlecruiser's escaping and coming back for round 2, round 3, round 4, round 5, round 6, round GG,
Will you please just fucking talk about the game?
that's where it gets really effective. Armory comes down with this too. I'm curious, is he just going to rush out armor or weapons for it? I think weapons makes more sense if he's going to commit to more battlecruisers. Oh, I see some people making some jokes about vaping. No, believe it or not, I actually just have asthma. It's boring and unfun. Like, inhaler wasn't code for a bong hit. It was literally an inhaler. Okay, glad to know you guys think I'm smoking weed at 4 a.m. in the morning, though. High five to the fellow DJs tuning in right now. But this battlecruiser, it doesn't have a lot of survivability. It can't necessarily run away, but the battlecruiser is protected by the Hellions, zoning it out. This mule is not in bad manner or bad faith. This is to repair the battlecruiser, to increase the longevity, but also the staying power. I think these Hellbats have done a fine job already. They've burned a lot of queen transfuses, and while they are getting cleaned up now, this battlecruiser has been given that little bit of extra health that it didn't have teleporting directly in like this. I don't think there's more kills to really be had, though. The attack's pretty much done with, and she might still get the battlecruiser. Oh, queen range. Oh my god, 1 HP, no teleport. This is like the scariest thing in the world, but I don't think she's quite gonna be able to get this. As much as I would love to complain about queen range, this seems to be one of those instances where it won't matter. And Tasia, please get this battlecruiser home alive. There are mutas coming out, and if those mutas are fast enough, okay, he teleports. 1 HP is really risky. But okay, so here's where mutas are interesting. Mutas don't fight a battlecruiser that well. The battlecruiser can actually take the hits from the mutas pretty evenly. as it's got the highest base armor in the game at 3. Mutas only deal like, what, an upgrade is a 7 damage? 9 damage, excuse me. So 30% less damage effectively just because of the armor alone. This thing can tank for a while. While it's a little bit low on HP, coming home, it's been pretty much fully repaired at this point. Back on Scarlet's side of the field, though, you know, she didn't exactly get to explode with drones. A lot of emphasis has gone into defending the 2 racks early on. It's gonna deflecting that battlecruiser, so she finally gets to do a little bit of chaos, but hopefully you will see her continue to drone and expand behind it if she really wants to just get ahead. Tasia has a lot of command centers, but not a lot of actual bases taken. These 2 Widow Mines plus that missile turret is huge, though. He really was hoping she'd take the bait and go for that position. Didn't quite work out. Yeah, a lack of anti-air won't be the problem for Tasia. It's just going to be a lack of anti-air right now. Because he had focused on this battlecruiser and the proxy, the tech labs were late, the engineering bays weren't the priority, so it's not about the missile turrets so much as it's just getting Marines out. I mean, having stims so they can run around and chase the mutas. There's a lot of problems for Tasia, but I don't think these mutas are that problem. I think realistically, the bigger problem is the macro game that Scarlet is playing behind this. So much creep spread out on the map. Not only is going to make it very difficult for Tasia to take any kind of quote unquote fair engagement, it's also just going to be the difference of him being seen or not. Like each of these creep teams provides her vision. She's got 50% of the map under vision right now, dudes. Flyer attacks level 2 are on the way. And these weapon upgrades are going to help chew through some of that thick battlecruiser armor. That Terran ship plating. Doesn't have a cool name like the weapons do, I guess. Yeah, teleporting makes sense. A battlecruiser won't die fast to that many mutas, but completely alone and without support, it will still die. Oh, Marines pick off 2 mutas right off the bat, though. That was nice. So these mutas have accomplished their job of you know, there's no medevacs that are floating around. The battlecruiser's having trouble poking across the field. And we saw her invest into a lot of these last game, and they just kind of won through brute force. I feel like it's going to be more of the same. Although this time around, she doesn't have a ton of banlings yet. She is getting there. You give a good Zerg player enough banlings, they're going to kill any Terran out there. Don't care if it's Sue, Scarlet, Rogue, whoever. But this is not that many banlings, all things considered. And if the Marines hide behind the Hellbats and let the Hellbats soak the banlings, more power to the Marines. But oh, these ones are caught out of position in the worst kind of a way. Scarlet realizing this, pivots, turns around, picks off several Marines in a medevac, all without overcommitting. That was a really good pick off for her. Tasia, with his battlecruiser, has not been able to do much with it, which is really unfortunate. Because bare minimum, you think this thing would have the free capacity to pick off banlings. Okay, I was really confused what I just missed out on there. Without game hard on, I'll admit it's a bit of a crutch trying to keep up with what's going on the minimap. Yeah, the battlecruiser will fight, but won't be able to save the command center. The Marines to the south out of position. Looks like a bunch of Zerglings just got picked off, which is nice, but you know, sometimes when Terran players start losing command centers like this, or SCVs more commonly in the late game, they've got the army supply so high that it doesn't really matter. That's not the case for Tasia. He doesn't have an overwhelming Terran army count, and as little Marines get picked off here and there, normally it's not that big of a deal. In this case, it's monstrously big. Because Marines going down, tanks are going down. He's now really, really deep onto the creep. If Scarlet decides to take a fight, she's got a lot of advantages going for her. Namely, those tanks getting picked off. Without the tanks, there's no easy way to snipe off those banelings from far away. I mean, these banelings roll in, and they mean business. Oh, nice ling run by down here as well. Fight to the middle, though, not going to give up. Big banelings explode, and big GGs get dropped. Scarlet takes the series 2-0, knocking Tasia out of the tournament. Well, good game to Scarlet. She'll move on to the semifinals, which will be starting up. I want to say soon, but I don't know because ESL has been changing the way they've been handling this every week. So I don't know if Zest and Time have already started or if they're waiting, what the story is. But either way, I'm going to be right back real quick while we try to find out. Okay, some updates, guys. Looks like they're gonna let both of the best of fives start early. The condition was the casters, they must be split between the two lobbies. So this means Wardy has gone to cast Scarlet versus Special, I think. And I'll be casting Time versus Zest. That way, not everybody's locked behind a waiting period. Oh, Special's still playing versus Nice, so that hasn't actually started yet. But this still could work out. So I think we're going to be doing... I think we can start with Time versus Zest. We're just waiting for the go-ahead from the admin, pretty much. But hey, guys, again, thank you so much for tuning in this morning. I'm sorry that I'm not paying super attention to the chat because I'm trying to record this in a way that I can upload it to YouTube. But I would just once again kindly ask if you guys have a couple of dollars to spare. It's not donating to me, but ! donate to donate to the charity that we're raising for the COVID-19 relief in Minneapolis. Please consider checking it out. You don't have to, but if you can, that'd be awesome. Let's hop into it though, because the map is loading in and we're on Everdream. Now this is a matchup I'm pretty excited about because this guy's been really on fire recently. To the bottom left side in this now best of 5, no longer best of 3 match, we have the blue Chinese Terran player Time, who is, in my opinion right now, maybe one of the best players in China. And to the top right, we have what should be one of the best players in Korea, but sadly this guy's been kind of slumping lately. It's Zest. So don't get me wrong, I mean no disrespect to Zest. He's actually definitely one of my favorite Protoss players, period, much less in Korea. But the results from him lately have been a little bit lackluster. His PvP matchups versus Trap weren't that impressive. I don't know where he's going to be sitting here versus Time, but I think because Zest is known so well, I do want to take a moment here in the early game to gush about Time. Because man, Time's already been, he was already on my radar as a good player. And there's not too many standout players from China. There are some memesters like Haas who've got a lot of, I think, recognition over time from their antics. But frankly, Time's just had really good, very solid macro, good builds, good decision making. I don't really have a lot to critique about him, I feel, when we're watching his games. So I really like watching Time play, and I like where he's at right now in his StarCraft career. Plus, he's just kind of on the up and up. But part of me worries because, well, players like Time were already good and are recently looking exceptional. Same with players like Clem. I know there's a lot of jokes about the Terran patch, but I start wondering how much of this is them and how much of this is maybe the patch actually being a problem, and maybe the Zergs aren't just whining. Regardless, we do have a patch coming, if not like tomorrow, very soon. And we'll get to see a lot of changes that go through. I'm not going to bother going over them in this cast because A, they're not live, but B, we also don't know what the final version of that patch note is going to look like. But definitely be aware that there will be a pretty big change up to several of the matchups coming in the near future. Anyways, the other part about this too is, hey, these guys are in it for the prize money now. Best of 5s mean prize money. $50 for whoever loses this series, which, let's be honest, nobody really wants to lose, but it's still something opposed to years where it's been nothing. Not to mention it's even more money if they win and go to the finals and play over there. All we know is that there are 4 really good players in the bracket at this point. Well, actually 5, excuse me. I keep forgetting Special's not actually done playing his match yet. But regardless, we're going to have a good finals. I can already feel it. No matter who gets through here, no matter who gets through on the other side, because between Nice, Special, Scarlet, Time, and Zest, you match up any of those players, I think it's going to be a good finals. Ooh, Widowmine is the starter here for Time. I guess the TVP Widowmines are actually pretty nice. That bonus damage reverse shields can go a long way. Not to mention the Widowmine drop is just a really solid opener. I think the Widowmines are good for catching maybe the stray Oracle that comes in too, but I mean, for the most part, you'll see Time, you know, he doesn't go for a Reaper. He doesn't have a lot of scouting going on. He doesn't actually have a lot of knowledge what the build order is out of Zest so far. That's where that Widowmine drop becomes really effective because you scoot on over to the other side of the map. Maybe you do some damage to the probes, but more often than not, the medevac gets all the scouting that you're not getting here in the early game. But okay, this is the change up. I saw the armory and I was going to start talking about upgrades and mech, but he's actually done it for drilling claws. I've seen this maybe one other time in the last couple months. I'm just trying to think if I've... Sometimes these come into play and they just don't matter that much, but drilling claws is a massive early game upgrade. One, because of the build order of Zest. He went for a fast Twilight Council, so he doesn't already have like 3 observers on the map. And even with a robo finishing, the priority is probably not an observer or 3 for the main base, but probably for things to go scout the middle of the map. So these Widow Mines are going to be able to remain burrowed and undetected after they fire their payload, but it's also just the fast burrow. It's the difference of sometimes even firing a shot off or not. So we're going to watch this medevac slowly peruse across the field. There's really not many openings. With both of the main and the natural covered by these stalkers, there's a chance the Widow Mines get some surprise damage, but Zest is really good at reaction timing. And in fact, I'm going to go to his camera real quick. I think he saw a blip of the medevac, so he's already got the stalkers in position. Remember, we're on Zest's camera vision right now. We're only seeing what he sees. But he sees that cheeky little medevac in the bottom right, albeit for a moment, but he sees it. So he knows where this is. The observer's sitting on top of it. Now, even if the Widow Mines do come out, they're not likely to get much damage done. Worse than this is Time's not getting any scouting info either. He doesn't know whether it's Blink. He doesn't know whether it was a Robo versus the Twilight Council. There's not a lot of info on the field. What is this one Marine doing here? That one Marine just got some insanely valuable scouting info, by the way. Oh, those Widow Mines reached. What the? I'd be mad about that. Okay, so that kills 10 probes. That ends up being pretty nice. The medevac's just being sacrificed. I kind of wish if this was going to die, he'd boost it to the main base. Whatever. Killing 10 probes is really nice. 10 probes was also made possible thanks to that Marine. I mentioned before, it got some pretty good information. He saw that Blink was done. This was something he didn't know up until the medevac was going to likely die anyways. And this Widow Mine, oh, so close to getting a second shot off, which would have been really nice. Back at home for Time, though. Macro continues his story. Stim is on the way. Third base is finishing up as we speak, looking directly at it. And all of these extra barracks are throwing down all their add-ons. So there's not a lot for Time to fight with right now. He's going for round 2 of the Widow Mines. But he's going to have a lot of really good production soon. Okay, not sure where that went. I guess he walked. Oh, this other medevac was here. Wait, is that the first medevac? Did he get it out alive and I didn't realize up until just now? That's amazing. Widow Mines fire off and that one kills 4 probes with a splash. And I think he got a stalker too? No, it didn't get the stalker, just the probes. Kind of works out. It's such a non-commitment, right? The way you do these Widow Mines, as long as the medevacs live, it's a pretty big deal. Oftentimes you'll see Protoss players leave stalkers at home for fear that there's more Widow Mines, but this one actually narrowly escapes again. Time, what kind of horseshoes are you putting inside these medevacs, man? This attack's gonna be rough. The Widow Mines have a chance to do damage, but oh, they end up to do more friendly fire than not. There's an observer right here in clear sight, so unfortunately these Widow Mines are being revealed and there's no stealth capabilities. This is it. Time's just falling apart to the counter push. He played too greedy with his production and didn't do enough with that second medevac. Zest takes game 1. And in the meantime, in happier news, we've actually finally won a Stream Raider battle. These are going quite poorly for us today. So yay! We won 1. I'm so proud of you guys. Let's see if we can win 2. I'm not going to get my hopes too high, though. So while we load into the next game, just waiting on the map to be hosted. There we go. What map are we getting into? What mess are we finding ourselves in? It's Nightshade. Everybody's piling into this one. I think Wardy and like one other person's doing the other side of the bracket. All right, fellow StarCraft nerds, we're finding ourselves in game number 2, but not the way I expected it to be. It was a lot shorter and frankly a lot more one-sided than I thought. But in the bottom right side of Nightshade, spawning blue is our Chinese Terran player Time. And as opponent to the upper left, the pink Protoss Zest. Now Zest is a good player, and I think what's noteworthy is he did capitalize on the situation. He realized how much was overused in terms of attacking him, and calculated, well, even if he did have all his production up, he's probably not gonna have that much to defend with. So the counterattack was not just a good choice, but it ended up being a great choice because Time's Widow Mines totally screwed him over on the home front. I think there was at least 5 friendly fire deaths from those Widow Mines, and it was made much worse by the fact that everything got destroyed by the observer sitting there. What's funny is Time may have actually not lost that game as bad as he did if he had scanned and picked off that observer. But I mean, stalkers were still likely going to blink juke most of the shots out in the first place. So I can't say that it would have been a difference of a win or a loss, but small things from Time that I do feel are fairly easy to correct or should be easily correctable. Zest is building in a way that is meant to deter Reapers. A little cliffside building is never hard to do. Actually, I like it when this pulls off really well, because sometimes you see the Terran player setting their Reaper up, not realizing that these buildings are there, and then just kind of like gets stuck on the ledge. But either way, it's just meant to make it more difficult for Time to get scouting, which not because of the build order or the building placement rather, but because of the way you played that game. Time didn't have a lot of info for a lot of that. Which, I don't know. StarCraft 2, you always hear people talk about how important information is, but it really is. Like at the top level too, it lets you know what builds you should be going for. It knows what units you don't want to go for. And more importantly, it'll let you know what your opponent's up to. I will say this much though, blink is just kind of common in general. I think if you were to ask most Terran players, you know, oh, say hypothetically you didn't scout a Protoss, what would you assume they're doing? Most would probably answer blink because it's just a really good defensive ability to have, and it's pretty maneuverable. It's pretty malleable too in terms of reacting to what your opponent's doing. Like, blink stalkers can pick off mech units just as good as they can pick off Terran units. In fact, in some cases even better because of the bonus damage stalkers get. But no point talking hypotheticals. Time has opened with Widow Mines again. I don't dislike this opener. In fact, I really like this opener. It's one of my favorite ones. But it just wasn't that effective last game. So that leaves me with some hesitation and pause. Because I really truly do want to see Time do well. But I mean, Zest lives in the finals of these tournaments. Oh, I just realized this says best of 3. Excuse me. I'm supposed to say best of 5. That's the problem, shifting over to best of 5s. It's just like habit to say best of 3s. But yes, we're in best of 5 territory. Blink is the weapon of choice again, but with not many gateways, but a fast robo, this could be committed. See what the production continues to look like over the next minute or so. Because whether it's an observer or a warp prism for high ground vision, if Time doesn't have like 2 siege tanks pre-sieged, stalkers can just wreck you in the early game. And it's disappointing to watch. It's really impressive for a Protoss player, but no matter how impressive it is for the Protoss player, I will never not be disappointed because of my inherent Terran bias, but also it just looks kind of lame. Like, when you see players like Parting individually picking apart each blink stalker through the warp prism, through blink, and the micros there, you're like, what a god. But this looks broken, and broken isn't fun. Excuse me. Anyways, this Widow Mine, it's only 1. There's no drilling clause with it, so it's not that committed. You know, if anything, this honestly feels like a bit of a fake out to an extent. Make Zest think there's more Widow Mines coming to follow up, similar to what happened in game 1. There's not. Spoiler alert. In fact, it's a Raven coming down on the other side of the field, which I do find good, but strange. The Raven's really going to shine when it comes down to this robo play, which ideally is a faster Colossus, but if it is Disruptors, that's where the Raven can really shine. And here comes those Stalkers. These aren't meant to do much. These are meant to poke. You know, for Zest, as long as he doesn't lose any of these, no matter what damage he does, it's fine. The idea is that, like, oh, there's a Terran player, poke out with the tank, a little bit in front, siege, pick it off. Marines start rallying out, pick them off. Medevac comes out of the front gates because you can't see those Stalkers right there, pick it off. But that's not what's happening, and there's no Medevac. It's actually a Banshee follow-up. Banshees have really become more popular for the matchup, but I feel like this one comes a bit late. But shouldn't be that bad if a second one still joins it. The late game Banshees and the mid game Banshees can actually be incredibly powerful. The way they can maneuver past the armies and just poke away at the probe line. Something that you would expect Terran players to do more commonly with, like, yeah, just drop. You know, if you want to kill probes, why not just drop? Because it's not always that easy to get in there. The stealth element of a Banshee can sometimes be the difference of any units getting to a Protoss main base or not, because that base is not going to be covered in cannons. That base at most is going to have like a shield battery in it. In fact, this is a really good scan. He scans ahead and sees that there's no shield battery in the main base. That might just give the go-ahead for the Banshee to leave. It's Hyperflight Rotor's following this up, by the way. So no Cloak. Wait, did he cancel Cloak? He's just swapped up to Hyperflight Rotors. Interesting. The speed benefit's big. Oh no, these Stalkers, this is what I'm talking about. Oh, okay. Without committing and without dying, yeah, he'll pick off a few SCVs, a few Marines. It's not meant to be big damage. It's just supposed to be frustrating. And it certainly is. Almost loses one of the Stalkers for it, though. However, this entire time, Zest has taken a third base at home. He's thinking about a fourth as we speak. Time has only just taken his third, and Zest knows that because he's been sitting here the whole game with those Stalkers waiting to see that transfer. So knowing that Time's going to be investing some money setting up this third base, he's probably free to get away with his fourth. Sure, there's going to be the fear of drops, and that's why we might see a pylon over here or over here, just for some scouting. In fact, the probe goes for a double expand. Oh my god. This is Zest really flexing real quick. Not only does he know he's doing okay in this game versus Time, this is also just unprecedented. Time might not look for this base. In fact, Time's building more bunkers, terrified that Zest is coming to kill him. But Time doesn't need more bunkers. Time needs to not let Zest get away with 2 extra expansions. It looks like that medevac was just shut down over here. Hyperflight Rotors, is this still not done? It feels like a century since I talked about this last, but Hyperflight Rotors still on the way. Banshees waiting to be involved in the action. 3 of them currently. Sorry, I think that was a Marine I just missed in the middle of the map scouting. You can see the little corpsey bits. Zest also just got away with an upgrade I don't see many players do that much anymore, and that's Observer Speed. Now, Zest is a god with observers, and I'll gush about his map vision for days, but that speed upgrade is usually not a priority, and you'll see that come like in the late game. The fact that he gets away with it with this double expansion, it doesn't look careless to me, it just looks confident. And speaking of vision from observers, we're gonna take a quick peek at Zest's. This observer pretty much covers everything out here. I don't think even medevacs could skirt past that and not be seen. 2 more to the middle, 1 more to the south. Zest just has a straight line in the middle of the map, which means he'll know anytime any Terran player leaves with any unit. It's gross. But this to me is one of Zest's greatest strengths. Strengths? I don't know what word I was going for there. This is one of Zest's greatest strengths, because I feel like Zest is the kind of player that he only really takes bad fights if he doesn't see them coming. But if he knows the fight's coming, he knows how to position his units, how to split his units. And is Time doing a change up? Hold up, I didn't even catch on to this till just now. Okay, so the Banshee's trying to do whatever. Their damage isn't enhanced by the speed, it's just their movement. But Time's playing mech behind this, which I don't know how I didn't clue into this until just now. There's so many siege things on the map after all. But he's actually full-blown mech, which I guess is an interesting way to change things after losing game 1. I think there are definitely some flaws in mech versus Protoss that are not easily dealt with, but the fact that Zest is mostly on things like Colossus and Stalkers, these don't do well against the line of siege things that are just sieged up and good to go. In fact, Time's army is pretty favorable in that regard. More Zealots will make this more problems, but hell, there's Hellbats. Are they Blue Flame Hellbats? They're Blue Flame Hellbats. Oh my god, the Immortal didn't even look like it had a barrier. It just disappeared. Look, unsieged or sieged, siege tanks are really powerful. And when you've got 11 of them, yeah, anything on the front line is going to get picked off for Zest. But oh no, despite all the bunkers and all the defense at home, these Zealots still get in there and pick off the sensor tower. That's an expensive building for Terran to lose, by the way. So I wouldn't say this was exactly worth for Zest, but he's got the money and he's floating these minerals, so it doesn't really matter. Cloak Banshees make their great escape, or try to at least. The Stalkers catch them though. Meanwhile, Zest catches those Banshees. He does collapse here in the middle of the map. He's gonna lose his armies though on both fronts, I think. The siege tanks are too much. Planetary Fortress will help zone this out too. Auto turrets going down behind the Colossus, trying to keep him in place. But he can walk right over the auto turrets. What he can't do is escape the damage though. And these auto turrets tear those Colossus apart. Raven, ooh, goes down too. It gets really scrappy towards the end of this, but Blue Flame and Banshees will hold off the remaining Zealots. These bunkers that I kind of mocked earlier ended up being really good for time in this case. But that being said, the income, the unstoppable income from Zest. I mean, Time's had a few moments where he drops mules and he gets back on the graph, but I mean, getting these two bases was so risky. I can't believe he actually got away with them. Now, the army supply from Zest is like non-existent. I'm terrified of him pushing like this because he has nothing to really work with. But he has two disruptors that could make a world of difference, except, oh, they're going to get picked off by the Banshees, so never mind. Magpul Accelerator's not done yet, but if it was, every single Stalker that just had a lock onto it would be dead. Because I think, I could be wrong, I think is it 3 shots from a lock-on to kill a Stalker at that pace? You could take these down real quick. It's still like a hot knife through butter. But yeah, so going back to why I said I think Mech can kind of fall apart is as good as Cyclones and Hellions and all these things are, I feel like Protoss Air is just better in most cases. You've got things like Immortals that'll just tear these apart if there's enough of them. Disruptors are huge for this too. I just feel like Protoss has more tools to deal with this than not. That being said, oh, he doesn't handle these Blue Flame Hellions very well. Stalkers are giving chase, but these have already roasted up 4 probes and drained an entire shield battery. Whoa, did anyone else just see a glitch animation there? The Heliobat turned back into a Hellion for a second? Did someone clip that? I want to go back and look at that later. That looked weird. That looked actually so weird. All right, trying to clear the way to the expansion. Walks into a Disruptor Blast. Oh, pretty nasty. Love the Banshees though. Remember, these were salvaged from that fight in the top. They'll try to pick off these disruptors, denies the disruptors from the recall. But Army now exposed. Stalkers collapse on top of this planetary fortress, and with 4 big volleys, knocks it down and should be able to walk away. Anything that gets locked on here is probably going to die, but he breaks the lock on with Blink. Zest is good, guys. Zest is really good. I could say it 100 times over, but like watching moments like that are what let you really know Zest is good. More Zealots being warped in as well. Over here to the left side. Oh my god. He's got 38 Zealots in play. There's not enough tanks and Cyclones to deal with this. I kind of feel like the Zealots are A-move territory. Honestly, even with Blue Flame, this is too much. The Banshees, sure, might deal with this eventually, but now there's Stalkers here to aid this. Base to the south is going to super die. Base to the north is going to super die. I guess there's one more to fall back on. Oh wait, that's right. It died earlier. This is so bad for time. Zest is just absolutely crushing this kid. Stalker's getting a little bit overzealous, but the tap out comes down either way. Zest 2-0 has not won the series yet, but is very much in the lead. Because with a best of 5, it takes 3 points to win, not just 2. So we'll get into game 3 here as quick as we can. Again, hope you guys are enjoying the show. And I guess the only thing to really mention is, of course, this, again, entire week. Look, I keep saying it, and I know nobody's donated. I'm not trying to get anybody to donate. I just want to keep the information out there, right? So please pardon the shilling between games as I once again remind you guys, all the money we're making from the channel this week goes towards this charity that we're fundraising for. We're already at like 1,800 something, which is really nice. But I want to push that all the way to 5K. So hopefully over the course of the week, we get some more donations. Hopefully you guys will join us for the tournament we're doing dedicated to this. In fact, we actually just last night posted the full groups because we were missing 2 groups before. We posted the full groups to Team Liquid and all the dates, so we now know all the qualified players, we know the replacement players, and we know all 4 groups. So you guys can check that out on Team Liquid. Other than that, I posted a kind of passive-aggressive angry message on both our Twitter and Discord, because I constantly have people come in and ask, or they'll join me after like a 5-hour StarCraft stream, and 1 hour into a different game, they'll be like, this channel doesn't do StarCraft anymore. Guys, I'm casting StarCraft literally every single day this week. If you miss out on it, that's on you. I don't want to see those complaints anymore. So please be informed. Join our Discord, !Discord, where we constantly announce what's going on. You can follow on Twitter too, which is always nice, but I know recently people have been kind of staying off of social media, which I'm not in full support of, but understand. So either way, there's a lot of ways to be informed. Please stay informed. I'd love to have you guys keep coming back on the channel. And let's hop into game 3. Okay. As this best of 5 comes to a potential conclusion, we see him up to no good in the bottom right. He's already sent an SCV out onto the map. We have our Chinese Terran player once more. It's time. And to the top left, the pink Protoss Zest. But somebody in the chat just now has remarked that apparently Special and Scarlet are playing off races right now. I would imagine this has a lot to do with the fact that they're friends and GSL's coming up, guys. I think it's fun personally, because what a lot of you guys might not be aware of is most of these players in the game are pretty highly ranked with their off races. So it's not just like, oh my god, they're throwing the game and being schlubs about it. It could just be they're having some fun while not giving too much valuable information away. I do wonder how that'll affect them going to the finals, though, because at this pace, Zest is looking to be the one to move on this side of the bracket. Not sure if he'll be up against Scarlet or Special for that grand finals. Marcos!
Casting the game?
Thanks for stopping by, Marcos. I hope you got my message in Discord, man. But okay, it's time
Hey, Bitch.
with the 2 rags.
Could you find it in your heart to cast the game?
I am, Nikki. It's time with the 2 rags, but this is a 2 rags with Reapers, and versus a Protoss player is not always the best thing to do. It's a very big gamble. Oh, it's Marines. But I was gonna say, regardless of how this goes, Protoss early game units are pretty strong. So you will have the element of surprise, sure, but then you're met with the fact that like 1 Adept deals with 3 Marines, or rather 3 Marines are required to deal with 1 Adept. Zealots go a different direction, and Stalkers too. You do see Zest poking out on the map, and I don't think this is for his own proxy. I think he's just looking for a potential other one. He's just gone the wrong direction. If Time gets a bunker up in the natural, Time could actually kill this base. I do like that he didn't try and play the element of surprise. Zest is going to lose a pylon for this, which is actually pretty devastating. It's very important that he's starting this one up for the proxy, because he'll otherwise be potentially supply blocked in a very bad way. We also see him putting a shield battery in the main. He really is aware that this could get out of hand and snowball like crazy, but he's gonna need something on the offensive. And he's going for a Twilight Council up here, but I have a strong suspicion that there's gonna be another building that requires a Twilight Council going down next to it. The probe sits up there. We can look forward to what is probably going to be DTs. I think DTs would actually be a really good way to turn this game around. Stalker out of position in a really bad way. Gets caught. The Adept on the other side trying to kill the SCV. I mean, it's tough because the bunkers are the bigger problem here, right? It's only a couple of Marines, but it's enough to kill these units. Stalker gets topped off here, but anytime it wants to come down, this poke won't be matched. He's just got to kind of hold his own until the DTs are ready to go. A gateway comes to the top right-hand side as well. 2 of them even, so I guess he can do some warp-ins. Because, yeah, anything he builds at home is actually a risk of getting picked off. So it makes a lot of sense, but for Zest, this 1-base play is not going to be easy to deal with. If Time is crazy smart enough to go for a blind Raven, I think Time wins this game. But regardless, the Nexus goes down. Feels bad, man. I don't think Zest is sweating too much, though. All things considered, he's up 2-0 in the series. And he does know that these DTs have not been scattered or anything. So cleaning this up shouldn't be too problematic. I just don't know how much damage he's going to do. Because, okay, it's unlikely Time is going to save scans for a Dark Shrine. He definitely feels like he's done a lot of damage on the other side of the field. But he also hasn't confirmed that there is or isn't something like that coming. So if he saves energy for a scan, Time will be in a good position. If Time continues to mule, they'll be in a really bad spot. Because those DTs are going to take time knocking down the wall. Thank you for the donation for the charity, by the way, Joe Man. Oh, sorry, I didn't quite read that name. I'll get that message out after. But these DTs are going to come in and they will have to knock down the wall. And that first attack swing is going to be indication there's DTs. And I think Time's aware of this. He's saving energy. I love this attempt at a second base from Zest, by the way. Yeah, even if they break in here, that tank's already set up. So backs away, only loses shields for now. Not bad. Would have been really good to kill the supply depot, but beggars can't be choosers. Goes back in for round 2. There's going to be one more scan, and then he's just straight up out of scans. So Zest's just going to have to wait. Oh, that was kind of both clever and bad, I feel. So he saves the DT by merging it into an Archon. But the Archon takes so much damage while merging in, it itself almost dies to the lock-on. Oh no, this is clever. I didn't even see this in the production tab because I never see this upgrade, so I don't even register it on my brain. But it's Shadow Strike. It's Blink for DTs, and it's gonna not just be a way to get over the wall, but jump directly onto the siege tank. Salvage on the bunker's a good call out of Time. Gets those minerals back, loses the Marines, but he would have either way. I think the really killer part of this is even with DT Blink, all things considered, there's a lot of units for Time. He's also got 2 orbitals, so scans shouldn't be the problem here. Not to mention the Raven that's about to spawn. But that being said, Zest is on technically 2 and soon to be 3 bases. Time only knows about the main. He scans the... This has got to be the weirdest scan for a Terran player. You see that your opponent's on 1 base. Maybe you think he's doing really poorly behind this. He's not. He's on a fully saturated 3rd that was never scouted. His natural base is coming down, and he's got tech to work with. Oh, and the blink was just revealed as these DTs escape, but that doesn't really matter that much. It hasn't been used in a long time, but DT blink is a really good counter to siege tanks. I would argue even more powerful than Immortals in some situations. But either way, should be able to tear apart the defenses of Time. But not with 1 or 2 DTs. It would take a lot to make a committed force.
Just focus on the game.
Already am, Roddy, but thanks for the reminder. And thank you, Dark Templar, for the Twitch Prime sub. Well, a Warp Prism might just change all that up. I wasn't even considering a Warp Prism, but Time had. He's left a bunker over in a funny spot in the main base. It does lack detection, but it is a bunker nonetheless. And that little bluff may be able to scare Zest from diving in for a drop. Either way, I don't know how much investment to the DTs there will be, but the Dark Shrine has just been scouted to the top right by this SCV. It is like a pretty scary force just waiting to maneuver around. Most of the times, defenses are split in a way that he should be able to pull back to the main in a pinch if he needs to. But I think the DT is getting to the main base. Well, okay, my theory is actually it's these units that get elevated to the main base, and then Zest would blink into the natural. At least that would be my thoughts on it. He's starting to converge. We'll see if he groups up all in one or not. Because he could also just elevator these units and then simultaneously blink to the main. Time does not have vision on the edge of his base right now. Definitely a spot to take advantage of. But he's doing this blind. It's a little scary.
Research complete.
Time in the meantime just scanned Zest natural. Still no knowledge about the 3rd base, I believe. That's got to be frustrating. Here's a Marine walking down the map and he's going to realize, wait a minute, my opponent's on 3 bases? Like, Zest has been doing so well on income this game, it's actually kind of insane. Ooh, the double pickup's going to go top right. This, most importantly, takes, what, 16, 15 something units out of the fight that could otherwise be used at home. Marine just scouted that third, and that's not a good feeling. So Time's going to start removing these buildings from play, but they've kind of already served their purpose. This is going to be rough, though. Double bunkers, Widow Mines, like Zest. Oh, yeah, don't commit to this. Well, he wants to go up on the high ground, too, but he realizes that's not an option with the Raven there. They'll just block out the, or Interference Matrix, the Warp Prism. Oh, the DTs really wanted to catch those Marines. They could grab the Widow Mine, especially if he blinks on it. It's like watching a bunch of otters chase a butterfly around. Except otters don't have blank, and Widow Mines are definitely not butterflies. Side note, if you've never seen GIFs of it, oh my god, go Google it right now. It's the cutest thing. It's adorable. I'm not sure what that Sentry was doing. That thing was spinning and freaking out. Warp Prism looking for a chance back to the main. Zest never saw this depot, so Time will see this, but this is hitting as Time's moving out. SCVs are being pulled with this too. Nothing left of the natural. Everything's been salvaged. Zest might be able to turn this into a base trade, actually. The power of this Archon's gonna be pretty big. SCVs are pulled back, but that's where that splash damage comes in. Stalkers will take care of the Liberator eventually. DT's doing big damage too. And at some point, Zest may recall home once he's satisfied with the damage here. There's all hands on deck. Time's all in on the other side of the map. And Zest has not pulled the probes. He's not doing anything. He's just trying to kill Time as hard as he can on the other side. This is an actual bona fide base trade going down. And with the Raven in play, DTs are not the automatic win that they would be in some of these situations. In fact, Zest is going to trade out in such a wild manner. Probes are being pulled across the field, and if Zest can establish a base where the army is here, Zest, I think, could win this game. But in terms of like a one-to-one army fight, I don't think it actually favors Zest. In fact, I think if this was like everyone just A moves with what's left, I think Zest loses. But a Nexus starts up before it gets revealed. Funny enough, this factory may burn down before it sees it too. But the key thing about this is a lot of probes got out alive, because Zest is going to lose all these pylons and he's going to get hard supply block. Same with Time. So even if Time escapes with a command center, as he will in the top right, he can't actually build anything with it. The funny thing is the SCVs pulled too don't have enough money to build a CC over here. Maybe this command center lands in mines a little bit. I don't know. This is a tough situation. I feel like in terms of mobility, just through blink on DTs, blink on stalkers, Zest as well should, I think, have the upper hand here. It's really tough to say. There's like one building left for Time right now. It's in the top right. That factory is good as dead because it's burning. But Zest isn't busy rushing to finish this off. He doesn't have the range for it. He's going to try and police the Terran army with it. I don't know if he can do this. There's some hit and run tactics for sure. But if he can just keep Time in the main base, then Zest goes back to mining and he wins this game with an eventual Stargate. So it's a real fickle situation. Maybe some force fields? I don't know. Anti-armor. How far does anti-armor go? God damn. Even I'm calling a little bit of BS on that one, guys. But this is important because the disengage allows time for that anti-armor to wear off. Fake Colossus are a brilliant play, but they are going to be seen by that Raven. So Time will know it's just Halluce. Oh, is he pulling probes? Or is he evacuating? I don't know what Zest's plans are. His DTs are also sitting up there errant and kind of not doing anything to contribute to this. Time as well doesn't know where the base of Zest is. He's going to find it now. Probes are on the front line with these Colossus. I don't know, dudes. He's trying to pick off that Raven really badly. Like, I think he might even just blink in with the Stalkers to suicide for it. If he does, he could win the game with the DTs. Actually, oh, that's such a missed opportunity. Oh, Time wins, which is bravo Time. But I just realized because that command center couldn't really land. If he picked off that Raven, there's no detection. Oh, I think there's like a butterfly effect where that game went differently, guys. I really do. In the meantime, we haven't watched any Stream Raider battles. Let's hope this one goes okay. Good luck on the battlefield, guys. I got to make sure I don't miss the invite to this next game. Ooh, I don't even know if we're gonna win this one, actually. That's a lot of... Ooh, that's a lot of spawner ships that were left alive. Granted, we got a pretty big force of units. Oh, I don't know. Good luck, guys. I can't watch. It's too tough. All right, the lobby just went up, so we haven't missed anything. Oh, I just got, okay, so I got into the lobby, I tapped back in, and oh no, there's so many harpooners, dude. Oh no, do we even have any tanks left? Oh, not really. The big bear can't even save us. No. Oh, there's too much. There's just too many, and they keep coming. Oh god, oh god. Yeah, it's all over. We lose. GG. Jeroboam, what are you even doing down here? Where have you been this whole time? Huh? Slacker? Yeah, that sad music. That sad music's telling you we lost, guys. We lost really bad, guys. Let's open the salvage chest and get a new map and try all over again. Oh, this is a defense map. This is actually kind of cool. It's a little different. If you don't know how this works, if you put units around the crabs, these clams, we have to defend the clams. Because if we don't, and they kill the clams, the other units like frenzy out and freak out and just kick our butts. So, please guard these with your lives. All right, you can still put stuff out on the outside of the map too, but. Anyways, there's the battle. I don't know. Good luck. Let's get into the game. We're just waiting on time to come back from the bathroom, but that timed out really well. I'm about to do a spoiler on the other series though, so if you don't want to hear the results of the other series, plug your ears for a second. Okay, 3, 2, 1. Scarlet 1-3-0 apparently. So the winner of this plays Scarlet in the grand finals. But the winner of this has yet to be determined. Still with only 1 life left, he starts fighting back. In the bottom left side of the map, it's the Chinese Terran player time. His opponent to the upper right, though. Granted, that last game got super crazy on him. I hope it hasn't shaken his resolve. He is the pink Protoss Zest. These ESL Cups really don't let you down with some of these games. That last one, I think, was so much better than getting like a 3-0 boring snooze fest, if I'm just being honest. Oh, probe, get a full scout up on the base. This isn't a huge deal, but seeing the barracks at home is certainly reassuring, because it's very unlikely that there's a base out on the map. You know, I think it was Time and a couple other players who have been doing some of these outside the base but not proxy builds where they'll put their barracks like, I don't know, somewhere like up here just to mess with players who scout with them. None of that's happening right now. Clem actually did a lot of this first party. If you guys missed it, it's up on our YouTube channel, shameless promotion. But Clem versus party last week, man, if you ever want to see a Terran player just like mind game of Protoss, check it out. Because it's not about the results or the spoilers, it's about the way it was played out. It was really cool. I like that series a lot, actually. So please consider checking that out on our YouTube channel over there. Oh yeah, also we finally went through with it. I pulled the trigger, guys. We changed the name of our, the URLs are going to take some time to update. But the YouTube channel we're currently uploading stuff to almost every single day is now called Base Trade Casts, and we've changed Base Trade TV, the old YouTube channel, to Base Trade TV Archives. I'm hoping the new branding will help a little bit, but honestly, the problem is I don't care about it that much. I just hope you guys enjoy the videos. I try not to think too much about like marketing or branding or anything like that, which is admittedly a problem, but hopefully this is a little bit better. So there's your little PSA in case you're like, wait a minute, I know something's different, but I don't know quite what. Now in this game, Time is playing pretty safe by taking a command center up on the high ground. I think this is pretty okay to do versus Protoss in general, but Zest hasn't really been rushing out on the map with a Zealot, but still these early adepts can be super frustrating to deal with. So I do like that he's not wasting like 7 SCVs trying to build a bunker, or excuse me, build a command center, for example. But he's been building bunkers and he's been playing safe in this series, and it hasn't really been that bad for him despite the score saying otherwise. It's definitely a lot more the later game decisions and the attacks that have mattered more than the opening, I think. In the meantime, that starport comes up pretty normally. There's nothing really exceptional happening for Time. Zest as well has chosen to go for a robo opening, but with him being Mr. Scouting and Mr. Information, getting observers on the field makes sense. It's more power for him. Oh, the adept's gonna block this command center landing. This is so frustrating. I hate this, honestly, when this happens. Ooh, gotta get another neck cracking. Can I do it? One was weak. I don't know if anyone else is with me on this one, because I'll just acknowledge first off, I know you shouldn't be like cracking your neck all the time and stuff, but I really wish there wasn't this like real life cooldown on cracking your knuckles or cracking your neck, because my God, is that like the best feeling, honestly. And if I could just crack it constantly, I would be a very happy camper. And my own whining aside, looks like Zest is setting up for a quicker third. The observer that he had rushed out through that robo got across the map and got to see everything. I think Time knew where it was, but doesn't know where it is. So the observer does sneak out of the base without a scan catching it. And I don't think Zest saw the Banshee, but he did see the tech lab spinning, so he's probably going to assume it was a Banshee. This warp in is pretty mild, but I don't know, I feel like the Marines should be able to handle this. The siege tank's in the natural mineral line, which looks a little weird to be honest, but if it gets too close to the cliff, yep, tank can get a shot off. But I think this should easily stay outside of the death zone of these Marines. Like the Marines will get in range, but then just lose shields and that's about it. Main base, oh, the shield battery's not done just yet. This is gonna suck. A couple probes will die. There shouldn't be that many, and it should be kind of managed. Banshee actually withdraws right away to make sure she doesn't overcommit. Meanwhile, for Time, well, this production just keeps on. It's a little slow getting. Ooh, it's a little slow getting to the rest of his production here, like tech labs and reactors. But all things said, he's not died to Zest's early warp prison harass, and that's probably what matters most. And if you guys are unsure what Zest is doing here, he's trying to get this siege tank to friendly fire like 4 more SCVs by dropping units on top of the other one. That was kind of a cool tactic. I actually really like that, but it didn't quite work out the way he wanted it to. Oh, 2 Banshees don't give a about a shield battery, but the stalkers here should be able to help ward these off. That first one did take about half his life in damage already, so that'll be the one he targets. He will barely not get that Banshee. Yeah, Stim starts up at around 6 minutes. We got Storm on the way. In fact, we're gonna see Storm done before Stim. That hurts. That like actually hurts to think about. But it's happening. So a little bit of Storm and a little bit of splash damage to help deal with Time's bioforces. I think we'll do well for Zest. The big downside to going Templar, though, instead of things like Colossus, is they don't have a lot of longevity. Storm is this nice blanket amount of damage that is like, oh my God, freak out time. Whereas Colossus are not nearly as bursty, but they'll get far more shots off and be a lot more consistent with their damage. Either way, it's Storm drops. Get out of town, Zest. You silent on Time right now, and it's disgusting. This hardly does any damage, by the way, which is hilarious when you consider how big of a deal of that attack it should have been. 5 SCVs die, and most barely get out of there with 1 tick of HP. Like, to be perfectly clear, if Time had reacted any slower, he probably would have lost double the SCVs. So that came down to what is probably split-second decision making, and that's pretty impressive. He pulls back from that. Ghost Academy's coming out, though. I guess that was another kind of tipping of his hand by revealing the storms this early. It's going to encourage Time to go for Ghosts faster. And frankly, I feel like Ghosts with EMP and Ghosts with enhanced Shockwaves EMP are almost like 2 completely different units. It's just the power gap is crazy. Banshee just kind of chills out still. The threat of the Banshee being here is not something that I think Zest is going to ignore, but 1 Banshee versus bases that have either army units or shield batteries, this doesn't actually look that scary. But she can be if Zest ever stops paying attention or forgets about her. Meanwhile, as Time maneuvers northwards, I'm actually reminded we got a donation earlier for the charity that I never got around to shouting out. And I'd like to do that really quick because I feel badly about missing it. Joe Man Joe, you donated $20 and didn't leave a message, but hey, thank you for supporting a good cause. You're good people. Okay, it's 3 ghosts. They're not rushing out enhanced shockwaves, but having EMPs in general is going to be very good. More storm drops. Round 2. Oh god. Oh god. Oh, spicy god. Yeah, so this time he doesn't pull the SCVs, and instead of getting out of there with most of them alive, he loses almost every single one of them. Even that freshly dropped mule. I think 3 freshly dropped mules went down there. 18 workers just died. Now here's where this could hurt. Zest doesn't have those same storms available for the defense. But if this army that's running through the middle of the map gets dragged upon, and there's like an odd storm from behind, a warping of zealots that sandwich in the siege tanks, it could be powerful. But Zest isn't trying to intercept this army to the north. He's pushing down south. Is he really going to force out a base trade again? Personally, that sounds insane to me, but he's got a plan. He positioned these Templar in the main. It's a slow push at a time, and he doesn't have enough medevacs to doom drop with. It's 3 medevacs, right? So maybe Zest figures, well, I'll go for it then. And he pulls the trigger. He goes super duper all in on the other side of the map. Storm! Oh, God, those storms are nasty. To get the splash damage in that they needed to, man. This is pretty bad. Time's been gutted raw once again. Zest is also being gutted. He does manage to recall out where? Over to the 3rd base, I guess? Transfers probes over. I don't know. It's a very similar situation to what we've seen before, where I feel like scattering, this is pretty good for Time, but excuse me, it's pretty good for Zest, but Time managed to pull out the victory in the last one where they did this. So I don't know. I honestly, truly don't know. Without a Stargate, this game's guaranteed to stalemate if Zest never gets there. So Time knows that he's got to push and keep Zest from getting his tech up. Because yeah, there's a safe spot in the bottom of Zen. Kill the engineering base is big. That just denied +2 armor. It's going to deny +2 weapons. This makes Guardian Shield even more powerful for any of these engagements coming up. And I just can't stress how on paper, like, everything seems like it should be good for Zest, but it's still, for whatever reason, my gut's telling me Time's gonna win a base trade when it comes down to it. Whether that's a true fact or not, I guess we're gonna find out. Stalkers do manage to take this orbital down to burning. That's very important. But even so, none of the SCVs have lived through this, so it's not like he can land and start rebuilding. In fact, all the CCs are about to die. So there will be nothing left for Time to fall back on. And I think maybe this time it's Zest's time to shine. Close out the series with a 3-1. Cannons are coming down while the forge is still up in the main. Army looks to intercept the middle of the map. There's no storms left, but man, I don't know if storms are necessary. Zealots and just mass zealots might be good enough. It's 12 of them. It's a risky engagement to take. EMPs are waiting to fly. Storms come from the backside, as predicted, but they're not good enough. Feedback on the medevac. Oh god, Zest is so close to breaking Time, but Time's also so close to breaking Zest. It comes down to 22 army supply versus 22 army supply. Oh my god, cannons, fall back to the cannons. Fall back to the cannons, Zest. Oh, wait, he's got the probes. Wait, he's got the probes. Use the probes, Zest. What the? Yeah, so many probes. Use the probes, Zest. Oh, he stacks up for the recall. Oh, that's so sick. Okay, all hands on deck. Probes, get pulled. It looks silly, but any shot probes soak for the Stalkers. More power to them. Cannons look like they're gonna hold. Picks up in the Medivacs. Medivacs in danger, possibly going down here as he gives chase with the probes. This is the most hilarious way for such a good series to come to a conclusion. He's picking up and dropping with the Medivac. There's no Marines left to shoot up. GG. Ooh. Bravo to Zest. He closes out the series 3-1 and will move on to the grand finals. He will square off against Scarlet. That's one more best of 5 before this cast is done. I'm going to go to a break. Thank you guys for watching. Hopefully you'll follow the channel or consider subscribing to our YouTube. And I'll see you guys in a few minutes. Okay, quick little update. I'm not sure why the finals is taking some time. Maybe they're doing vetoes, but I'm just staying on this screen to save my voice a little bit. But as soon as the grand finals is ready to go, we will be ready to go. Speak of the devil. Lobby's going up right now, boys. All right, we'll be thinking of Pretzel Rocks for the music that doesn't get shit muted as we mosey on in to a brand new match. This is the grand finals. There will be no more games after this best of 5. This is it. Everdream. Well, before we jump into the match, I would like to give a big thank you to anyone who watches these videos. A little humbling reminder that everything helps, and I really appreciate you guys who continue to watch my stuff after all these years. So, that being said, let's hop into it. It's game number 1. It's a best of 5, and spawning here to the top right side of the map, we have the pink Protoss Korean defender Zest, fighting the pseudo-Korean, but I guess still technically Canadian Zerg, the green Scarlet. Now, I was actually really curious because in my mind, I've watched Scarlet play a few PVZs recently, but that's not usually been against Zest. It's been against Trap and a few others. But funny enough, looking up their match history on a Ligulac, you can see Scarlet and Zest have actually traded out, especially with the ESL Open Cups. They've met before in the best of 3s. You know, Zest wins here, Scarlet wins there. It's actually been very back and forth for what little they faced each other officially in 2020. So I don't actually have a good call on who wins this. I think if Zest is in peak condition, I think he beats out Scarlet. But Scarlet's really aggressive playstyle seems to do well against players like Zest. I'm not saying Zest in particular, but players who play like Zest, where they don't get cheesy and they tend to play very safe. So we'll see how that influences this. Either way, for now, she's opted not to mess around with any headache at the natural base and gone straight for the 3rd. This is fine for her to do because she would probably intend to just take the 3rd base anyways. So this will just be I guess a slight shift to the build order positions. Zest, on the other hand, not proxying, just scouting with this probe. He knows he can stay around here for quite some time, at least till the queen's out. So when the spawning pool's done, count to like 20 and leave. Back for him though, he's building on the low ground. I'm a little apprehensive about this, by the way, because Scarlet has got some good wins against players like Stats and Trap, and even Zest, where she just goes for an early pool, and that pylon here ends up being a death sentence. It hasn't happened this game, but because it's a best of 5, there's a pretty good chance we may see it happen at some point. So hopefully that doesn't end up being a problem for Zest. Sorry, just now realizing I had hit the mute button on my mic. I literally did not say anything important, so we didn't miss much, but hey, it's fixed. Anyways, the adept comes over now and maybe pokes away at a zergling or two. I mean, it's freebie kills, so you can't really complain about that. But Scarlet does have other zerglings going around the map. The adept might get caught as she arrives home, as she doesn't quite know about these zerglings. Ooh, could transfer through the wall, run away. Yeah, okay, that's fine. Anyways, like I said, Scarlet was going to take this base anyways, so she gets her third base up at the natural. The ling pressure at the front is always kind of cute to see. The Stalker could be in danger of dying. Not likely with the shield battery finishing up, though. So this wall will hold, and Scarlet will unfortunately lose most of these zerglings for not much. She just taps out. All right, GG. He was really hoping to catch Zest off guard, but he did not falter. And while that was kind of a lame looking game one, I think that actually did a lot to describe the playstyle, but also get a feeler for this. As I mentioned, Zest is a player who plays very much similar in every game. He's not one who rotates builds and it's like, oh, I lost game one, so I'll proxy game two. In fact, there was a small period of time right before IEM Katowice where Zest was playing in these. I remember this now. Zest was playing in these and he was cannon rushing. And I remember cannon rushing isn't that remarkable, but Zest cannon rushing is, because he never does. So he's obviously kind of not done that since then. But my point stands where that's just not the type of guy he is. Scarlet going for that super aggressive play in game one, I would say is a little risky against a player who plays close to the vest. But I also mentioned there was a low ground pylon, and I feel like for Scarlet, that's like smelling blood in the water. So unfortunately, she had, not many drones, taps out after realizing the wall wasn't going down. It was a pitiful defeat, but it does happen. So hopefully she won't get too hung up on it. As we move now into game two, the destination is Simulacrum. This is a pretty fun map. I like this one. It's not too weird. I will just remind everybody as well while we load in that Scarlet is in GSL. And there's a good chance she won't be revealing too much in this. So her normally aggressive playstyle of playing might work out well, just because it means she'll be a little bit more, I don't know, not showing too much, if that makes sense. Look, let's have this progress and talk more about it coherently after we see game two. So in the top left side of Simulacrum, I present to you the pink Protoss player, Zest. Ooh, who's low ground piloning again? I don't like that. To the bottom right, we have the green Zerg, Scarlet. Now, I'm not here to really overanalyze why Scarlet lost game one. What I am interested in, well, first off, is the pathing on that probe. I thought, oh, is he actually going to set up a proxy somewhere cheeky? But then he takes the low ground pylon, which tends to infer a nexus. As far as the opening goes, Scarlet doesn't change much. She sees the probe, says screw it, not messing with it, goes for the base up here instead. This is fine. This is so many players have done this. This is not anything noteworthy. It's just Scarlet saving a bit of headache, as the pylon would surely come down and Zest would be super annoying. But yeah, so going back to this, Scarlet's not done a fast pool, so I don't think we're going to worry about this for now. But God, I swear she has some of the most record-breaking wins on this channel. I think Special is one of the worst ones because of a barracks tap out from getting scouted. But other than that, like, Scarlet beats Protoss players all the time with cheesy lings and this pylon. But she's not done it game one. She's not done it here game two. And I actually have to fix the scoreboard because I'm just sitting here physically like, oh, right, we're already in game two. It doesn't make sense to me. But yeah, she's won these sort of games before, but that comes off of the gamble of doing it, right? She's not going to have the scouting to know it till it's way past its point. So it has to be targeted on her part, and she's not targeting this. Instead, she's just playing normally. Well, I say normally in air quotes because, last game she cut her drones around 20, like about now, and went with Zerglings. Just waiting to see what that production tab looks like, because that's going to tell us more than anything else. A couple Zerglings right off the bat, it's not that big of a deal, but if no drones keep coming out, she may just go across the field again. In fact, transferring a few drones over for the probe to see might just be some sick mind games if that was the case. But I think she's actually just transferred the drones over. Couple Zerglings chase this off. Ling speed's already been started. But I'm still suspicious of this production tab. I really don't know if we're going to see more come out of this or not. And this is the only thing that really matters right now, because no matter what Zest is doing, it's all going to be about defending if that's the case. But it's the Twilight Council. It's still not a complete wall, and Scarlet is not building drones, so I'm still like sitting here side-eyeing this. Because she was just saving money for a hatchery. Okay, so that kind of works out then. Layer coming up next. We can take our tinfoil hats off. Because I was like, man, I didn't realize she cut drones last game until it was already over, because it just didn't seem like a very powerful attack. It didn't feel like she had cut drones for, you know what I mean? But whatever the case may be, Lair is coming up. There's no Roach Warren. There's no continued Queen production, so it doesn't feel like a Nidus Worm. In fact, whatever she's doing off of Lair tech, probably my guess would be Mutas in some cases, but she's got such a low gas income that I really don't know what she's planning to do with it. Either way, the third base will be completing shortly. Zest has made his decision in Tac 2. It's a Dark Shrine, and as much as I would love to berate Dark Templar use, Zest tends to use these for Archons and a Warp Prism Harass combo. He's like the granddaddy to this. Oh, this is why she went for Lair. Okay, so she's going to elevate her Zerglings up to the main base. This is a cool move, but funny enough, that Dark Shrine still might be the savior here. Not even for Dark Templar, because she could make an Overseer. More to the point, it'd just be for Archons. But yeah, Zest has to watch his front, has to leave an Adept here. He's got to bring Units back to the main base. Luckily with that probe, he did see this coming, but there's only so much you can do, right? Limit some of the surface area with the shield battery. If that completes, that's going to be really good for the defense. But Scarlet's also slamming the front gates. And while Zest is building wall layers back to survive longer, Zest, he can't invest too much because Scarlet might just go into her Overlords and jump up to the main base instead. She's got a Nidus Worm coming down to assist now as well, and there's going to be a direct reinforcement path to the main. This very cheesy, aggressive style of playing Zerg looks hilarious to watch, but it's also looking a lot more convincing than Game 1's did. Archons. He needs Archons so badly. DTs are good for being DTs, but the splash damage is going to be massive. There's Overseers out now as well, so these DTs won't even be like an automatic win. It will, however, help slice up this Nidus Worm, and that's a good start for the defense. Picking up these Adepts and shuffling through the auto attacks. Scarlet taps out once more. Damn, Zest is on the defense. Well, I guess I'll remind you guys that second place is worth $100 in the tournament. And that's it. All right, we're on a defensive map for Stream Raiders. Let's see how this goes. Yeah, see, if you're in the middle defending, you don't actually end up moving out. It's weird because it's like a role reversal. But their big boss thing is like, what, 3,000 health or something? Oh, 700 because we have a small amount of people. We should be able to keep these claims alive. I'm also loving all the little dudes, by the way. You could be level 1, and I still appreciate you in this battlefield. More power to the people, boys. Yeah, the motto with Stream Raiders generally is just, it doesn't really matter what you do or how good you are. Just having more units on the field helps. But unfortunately, that is not going to be a rule we'll listen to for the next 2 days. Because there's a $20,000 PvP tournament that we are going to be participating in. And qualifiers start today. So I don't want your level 1 archers for that. We did really well. It was a $10,000 invitation. We finished 9th place. I'm confident Team-Based Trade TV can do well again. So we're gonna give it our best try and hope things go well. And I hope I'll see some of you guys for the PvP matches. But I know some of you watching also couldn't care less about Stream Raiders, so don't worry about it. We're in the lobby for the next game, but we are waiting at the moment for Zest to come back from a quick bathroom break. It's also worth noting this could be it. This might just be the wrap-up, because if Zest wins here and Scarlet just gets aggressive and loses, then he's got the 3-0 win. Either way, some fun games tonight, and I wasn't planning to actually cast any of this. In fact, I was lying in bed scrolling through Reddit, watching all the sad stuff that's happening in the world right now. By the way, hashtag Black Lives Matter. And I said, screw it. Let's try something new. We'll try a higher resolution and upload it to YouTube and see if they like it there. So, dear YouTube, know that while this was streamed on Twitch, I was thinking about you. For once. My poor redheaded stepchild. Well, game number 3 will be taking place on Nightshade. Take a quick swig of water. Get these intros underway because this is game number 3 and possibly the last game in this best of 5. $200 on the line for the winner and 10 ESL points. $100 for the loser. Spawning here to the bottom right side of the map, looking to sink his jaws into that $200 first place prize, is the pink Protoss Zest. And I'm hoping it's not the last time I introduce her today, but it may well be. With no points on her last life, we have the green Zerg Scarlet spawning to the top left. You can see Zest is just checking out the natural, and I think we're going to see the same story tell itself again, where Scarlet will likely just hop on over to a third base. Yep. Honestly, this isn't that dynamic. Oh, she's actually going to swoop back in, do a loop-de-loop. Zest goes to check the third. Scarlet takes the natural. Okay, that is the sickest juke out of all time. But to be clear, I don't think it's the base positioning of her second hatchery that has really mattered too much for a lot of this. This has just been decision making that's been hurting her more than anything else. Yeah, Zest gets a really good scout, sees the spawning pool timing, thus knows he probably can't stick around very long. And he saw the hatchery on the way back in. So these shenanigans were not undiscovered. Back at home, though, Zest also doesn't change a dang thing. It's pylon on the low ground so we can get a comfortable nexus going. And on this map, well, I'm hesitant, guys. I was about to start getting into this whole thing about what Zest could do, but let's be real, it's about Scarlet. I'm not going to say she's throwing these games necessarily, but she's done really poorly with the first 2. And so game 3 really has to shine because this is the start of the comeback. But every game so far has been pretty much around like 20, 24 drones, not too many workers, no matter how many bases there were. So we'll keep an eye on her drone production again, but it feels like, is she just going to ling all in again and hope Zest makes a mistake? Because that's what it feels like for the first 2 games. The patience comes as we watch this larva spawn. What does she turn it into? Drones for now. She still takes a third. The thing about this third, though, is it doesn't have to be for macro. Could just be a larva factory. And while game number 2 did go better for her, it still didn't win. So I'm really hoping we see a change up here of some variety. She was actually been playing with mutas quite a bit recently in the NA Cups too. So, well, Zerg players in general, I think we've been seeing is more I didn't mean to say NA Cups. I meant to say Zerg players in general have been going for mutas. And Scarlet showed that already today. So I know they're in her wheelhouse, but again, very much conscious of the fact that GSL is around. I remind you guys that there may not be a full 100% effort, if that makes sense. I think, no, that's not even true. I still firmly believe the players who want to hide builds and not show too much info, they still play to win, but they won't use like some very specific builds they've got tailored and saved up or practiced against people for. So I do truly believe, as I say this honestly, Scarlet's trying her best to win. I just think she's probably limited in what she can go for. That or she's just had the worst couple of games. I mean, it happens too, right? Just you got an off day. It happens. Not making excuses, just trying to provide some explanation, I suppose. Well, the Warp Prism moves out, and I don't think the Overlord saw it, but the Zerglings may have. She did go for a lot of drones this game, and my fear is maybe she went for too many drones. It's the opposite problem, because now she doesn't have much army to fight with. But Zest isn't coming in with Archons yet. However, he's very close to being there. DT should warp in here right now. The timing on this is very early. The Spore Crawlers are not done. There's no layer for Overseers, so the DTs have some attack power in them for sure. They get a cancel on the Spore, though. Okay, they don't. They go for the Queens instead. Slaying 2 is not bad. Just don't lose the DTs, because of course he needs to turn these into Archons to continue his assault. This is where I find Zest to be a bit of a boring player, by the way. Not in terms of like, oh, he's not exciting to watch in terms of macro, but it's more of the same. He's done this build so many times for the last like 2 years. Damn it. Thank you, Duddles. Who the hell's Duddles anyways? Thanks for 28 months, man. Hydralisk then for Scarlet is a good change up. As clear as it's been, just Zerglings don't work. But the problem is Hydras are kind of a weird response to what Zest does for harassment, right? The Hydras can deal with a Warp Prism, and the Warp Prism going down means the end of the Archon fight, but also those Archons could kill many, many Hydras before that happens. Either way, the Warp Prism is on the way, and Scout's a little supply blocked. She's getting those Hydras out now, though. But it's going to be so few at the start. I'm really not sure how good the defense is on this, but getting rid of that Warp Prism has got to be the #1 goal. In fact, you see her send the Queens in and ignore the Archons very specifically to try and target the Warp Prism. Because, yeah, the pickup power on this is way too powerful. Oh, zap. Zap. Looking for another one? And of course, while this goes on, Zest is taking his third. He's getting Blink. He's getting Tech. This is such a nice way for him to be not committed, but provide enough pressure that Scarlet can't prevent him from doing what he wants on the other side of the field. Range upgrade's almost done here with Groove Spines. They'll help a little bit connecting these Hydras, but I think Zest's time's going to tick and close to an end anyways. That Warp Prism's starting to get hit. It hasn't lost any actual HP damage yet, but I think it will soon. This is a lot of Hydras. He's dropping and picking up too fast. It's almost too stylish. Zest has lost almost nothing this game in comparison to Scarlet. This type of play is annoying. But I will remark, I had casted a game of Zest a long time ago when this strategy was still new. He had lost 0 resources while Zerg player lost like upwards of 5,000, and Zest still lost that game. So it's one of these things where Zest has had a really great early game, but it's not over till it's over. Oh god, the Banelings get caught. Oh no, the Banelings get caught super early. Like, this isn't gonna like super shut down her attack, but picking off about half of them delays her pushing in. Although there is a drone, this is the equivalent of a flag bearer in Stream Raiders. He's just here to cheer on the fight. Blink's done. Blink's gonna be a lot of micro for this. The Archons get scooped up as well. Scarlet's on 55 workers, so this doesn't feel like she should tap out if the fight loses, but it really depends on how much damage she does. Zest actually has nothing on the right side to defend right now. If he recalls, then he gets stuck over here. This is an awkward spot for him to be in. But at the same time, if he could actually sandwich her in, oh, the sentries get wasted. The force fields aren't even hardly going down. It's super awkward because I think she had the Banelings in the control group, so they were stutter stepping with the Hydras for a little bit. The Banelings get into the fight way too late. Zest should collapse on this, and I feel like this is an easy hold. But that being said, he has lost so much that I don't think there's a counterattack in him. Normally there'd be a direct counterattack that would kill Scarlet. His forces are pretty, they're not bad, but they're not good enough to take a waltz across the field. She's gonna tap out anyways. GG, ladies and gentlemen. Zest will wrap up the series and be this week's ESL champion, netting him $200 for first place and 10 ESL points. Shout out and high five to Zest for winning an ESL Cup. But I guess I'll start wrapping this up as we'll finish the Stream Raider battle. But for the people who were watching this on YouTube, I hope you enjoyed this longer recording. It's a test. If you did, please let me know. And if you didn't, don't say anything. Honestly, we're just trying out new content because I love experimenting. So thank you for those who watched on YouTube, and thank you for those who continue to watch on YouTube. I hope to one day catch you live on Twitch. But until that day, take care. Thanks for watching.